Who said to go to Diagon Alley, you must pass through the dirty and broken kettle bar? Who said that wizards only have entertainment such as goblins, wizard chess, explosive cards, and Quidditch? Who says there is a scarcity of British cuisine? Who said that Diagon Alley only has more than 10 shops coming and going? Who says pets are round-faced fat chickens, mice, cats, and toads? Our slogan is, don't let poverty limit your imagination. Let's get on the night sky carriage, hunt the dwarf pig monster, watch the magic art exhibition, attend a concert, and lie down on the yacht. Eat rem steak, drink flame whiskey, keep silver wolf as a pet, and explore the wizarding world that poor Harry and Ron have never encountered. The story of being reborn as the twin brothers of Draco Malfoy and deciding to become stronger in order to protect their family and honor the family. Hogwarts is a daily article with Hogwarts as the main scene, and the character personalities are close to the description of the original work. Try to skip the concise text of the original content, so that readers need to read the original work suitable for readers. Original fans, Malfoy fans, set stream enthusiasts, competition stream enthusiasts, team stream enthusiasts, male-oriented, cool and cultured, no system, high wealth and handsome starting point keywords of the novel. Hogwarts. The Rise of Malfoy without a pop-up window, Hogwarts. The Rise of Malfoy. Download the complete TXT collection, Hogwarts. The Rise of Malfoy. Read the latest chapter on Hogwarts. The Rise of Malfoy. Chapter 1. Reincarnation through time travel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Reincarnation through time travel June 5, 1980, Wiltshire, England. Wiltshire is located in the southwest of England, and the estate of one of the most powerful families in Great Britain, the Malfoy family, is situated within it. Malfoy Manor is a somewhat gloomy and massive estate, with a magnificent mansion standing in the center of the estate. The estate is adorned with carefully designed gardens, fountains, and freely strolling white peacocks. The exquisite wrought iron gate gives visitors a feeling of passing through smoke as they pass through. The Malfoy family has set up many spells around here, which not only protect the estate but also prevent ordinary people from approaching. Now, its owner is Lucius Malfoy, one of the most powerful people in Britain today. Today's estate is different from the past tranquility, with a bit more vitality. Today, Mrs. Narcissa of the Malfoy gave birth to twins, marking the first time in centuries that the Malfoy family has given birth to twins, breaking the long-standing tradition of a single lineage. A middle-aged woman with a plump figure dressed as a midwife was busy cleaning the bodies of two baby boys filled with amniotic fluid, checking their breathing and biting force between their lips. A young man with a slightly pale face, dressed in aristocratic attire, looked at the two newborn babies with an uncontrollable joy on his face. He then looked at his wife, who was still lying in the big bed, and suddenly showed a look of both heartache and concern. He couldn't help but say, "Narcissa, what do you think?" Narcissa Malfoy is a beautiful woman who can still be young at this time. In the prime of her life, her fair skin and faint eyebrows reveal her precious charm. Her physique has always been good. Although she has just given birth, her voice is not half weak. "Dear, I'm fine, how are the children?" "Don't worry, both children are very healthy," Lucius said softly. "As agreed, will you name your eldest son?" "You know, my family has always had a tradition of naming after zodiac signs, and I want to keep this tradition. According to seniority, my child should be ranked." Narcissa thought for about 5 seconds before slowly saying, "It's Draco, so his name is Draco." "What do you think?" "Since I have already agreed to you, there will definitely be no objection," Lucius said with a gentle smile on his face. "As for second brother, I have long had an idea about his name, and you know that the current situation is turbulent. In the ancestral wisdom passed down from the Malfoy family, only the most shrewd and ambitious figures can lead the rise of the family. According to the arithmetic fortune teller hired by the family, the child's birthday is June 5. Therefore, We will use the Pythagorean method to deduce that the child's name must start with S and end with N, so we will call him Sharon, please. Sharon. Is he the knight who, over 900 years ago, was the Duke of Normandy and a vassal of William the Conqueror, along with the ancestor of the Malfoy family, Armand, and was ultimately granted the title of Lord of Essex due to his outstanding military achievements? Narcissa asked. He is known for his iron fists and ruthlessness against enemies. Dear, in times of chaos, meaningless kindness only brings disaster, Lucius explained. Moreover, you don't know that this name represents one in the results derived from arithmetic divination, which means wisdom, ambition, determination, self, and leadership. Narcissa couldn't help but chuckle. It seems that you have really high expectations for the children. Lucius's expression suddenly became a bit strange, as if excited, but also with a hint of melancholy. He let out a long breath and said, I can't help it either. The two children were born into a chaotic world, and I don't know how long this turmoil will last. I just hope they can inherit the family's business, continue the family's glory. I can only give everything, do my best for their future, and pave a grand road to glory. Darling. Narcissa's eyes were filled with mist. Let's not mention the juicy plot of the two for now. Let's take a look at the protagonist of this book. Sharon Malfoy. A well-known adventurer and archaeologist who had a successful career in his past life, accidentally touched a mysterious magical vortex during an adventure in a mysterious cave in northern Tibet, and suddenly his whole body, along with his soul, was sucked into the vortex. At the moment he woke up, he found himself transformed into a chubby, naked little baby boy. He completely understood the conversation between the parents of this new body. My goodness, he has traveled into his favorite Harry Potter world. In his past life, his most famous achievements were his adventures at the Tutankhamun Pyramid in Egypt and the Phantom Marsh in Chamak, USA. He also wrote these two adventures into best-selling books in the UK, with global sales exceeding 1 million copies. However, he also has another unknown identity. A passionate fan of mysticism and magic. He has read hundreds of different magical novels about magic and mysticism, among which his favorite is the Harry Potter novel series written by J.K. Rowling. He has read this series no less than 10 times and can be said to have memorized every plot and detail. Not to mention, he is also an honorary member of the official Harry Potter fan club in Great Britain, and even had lunch with the author J.K. Rowling a few times. He silently calculated the time in his heart. Draco and Harry Potter were born in the same year, which indicates that it is now 1980. The baby's cerebellar pouch is really not very useful, just such a simple calculation makes his mind feel a little tired. Xiao Lin spent a lot of time figuring out his current situation. Although he felt happy and excited because he had traveled to the magical world he was familiar with and loved, he also felt frustrated and distressed about having to go through his growth journey from infancy to adulthood again. At this moment, the wizarding world in Britain is in a state of bloody turmoil due to Voldemort's first wizarding war, but Schelling is unable to participate in all of this development. He can only eat and sleep well every day, and do his part as a baby. Since the birth of the Malfoy twins, Lucius has rarely stayed at home. He is gathering followers for his master, Voldemort, and fighting in all directions, with the intention of establishing a society where pure-blood wizards can rule over Muggle wizards. This situation persisted until October 31, 1981, when a dark wizard named Voldemort disappeared from the wizarding world and a savior named Harry Potter appeared, opening a new chapter in the history of the wizarding world. After Voldemort fell, the power of the Death Eaters also collapsed. Subsequently, the Wizarding Society began to resume normal life, and wizards across the country held round after round of celebrations. Stories about the boy who survived the disaster also spread. The Ministry of Magic has resumed operations, and the trials of the Death Eaters have begun to proceed in an orderly manner. Some people who are loyal to Voldemort never believe that the Dark Lord will be defeated and still threaten the officials involved in the trial. Without a doubt they will be imprisoned in Azkaban. Some people, on the other hand, are wise and protect themselves. For example, Lucius insisted that he was a Death Eater who joined only after being cursed, thus avoiding imprisonment. Of course, it is unknown whether there is a money and power transaction behind this, and there are still many such people. Upon careful examination of the family history and information about the Malfoy family, it can be found that the Malfoy family's critical moments of standing in line are often correct. They crave power and wealth, but they are better at navigating the wind and escaping. Since following the Duke of Normandy to land in England, the Malfoy family can be said to have exerted the law of survival to the extreme. Time can heal the scars on the surface of the heart, and people are deliberately forgetting those pains. Although the wizarding world is not as peaceful as it seems, at least people no longer have to worry. 1. This book is not purely blood-oriented. If it doesn't suit your taste, you can avoid it. 2. This book is about multiple female leads, as mentioned above. 3. The first volume is a fast-forward style, as the protagonist lacks strength and there are many limitations to the plot. 4. There will be an original plot starting from the second half of the second volume. 5. The third volume officially opens the main storyline. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Magic Eye. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Magic Eye. As a familiar storyteller, Sharon knew very well that Voldemort had only briefly disappeared in front of the screen, but his remaining soul was still hiding in a jungle in Albania, waiting for the opportunity to make a comeback. Lucius' wise self-defense at this moment was a betrayal for Voldemort, and Sharon knew that in the near future, Lucius would do something foolish, which would cause Voldemort to lose a Horcrux. After Voldemort's resurrection, Lucius not only lost his position among the Death Eaters, but also had his entire family punished by Voldemort for it. Malfoy Manor was requisitioned, Lucius' wand was requisitioned, Draco was assigned a mission to die even after Voldemort's downfall in the original plot, Lucius was sent to Azkaban prison, and the Malfoy family suffered irreparable decline and never recovered. Okay, let it be as it comes. At least he's a familiar storyteller who can change the fate of his family, Xia Lin thought optimistically. It is rare to be able to live a lifetime again, and Xia Lin does not intend to follow the original plot and let his future be bound by intangible fate. Xia Lin brought not only the mature soul of adults from the previous life, but also the adventurous spirit burning in the blood of the previous life. Being able to live a new life, even if not being able to dominate like many heroic protagonists in time travel novels, at least a stable and worry-free life, freedom without work, wealth that can be enjoyed leisurely, and dignity without looking at people's faces are the minimum limits. It would be even better if we could have 2 or 3 more girlfriends. Since fate has now reborn him in the Malfoy family, perhaps one more thing needs to be added. He also wants to try to change the fate of the family, protect the glory of the family, and even elevate the family to a higher level. Let's talk about the life in Malfoy Manor. The appearance of Malfoy Manor is luxurious and grand, with an extremely vast area, but inside it is empty and only a few people live. In addition to myself and my father Lucius, there are also my mother Narcissa, my brother Draco, the butler Cockero, and a lowly domestic elf named Dobby at home. Of course, there are also some illegitimate members of the Malfoy family, but these people are usually responsible for managing the family's property on farms or mines. They only appear on the estate during festivals or when the family's senior council is held. Therefore, although Sharon has met these people a few times, they are not very familiar with each other, and we will not mention them here for the time being. As Sharon grew up, he felt completely integrated into this world because he felt a strong sense of love and family. When reading the original work in his past life, he did not like the Malfoy family because they were all portrayed by the author as despicable villains. However, when he was in this family, he found that regardless of how Lucius and Narcissa were, they were all so kind to their family that they could not be said for. As for Draco, he loves to show off and is very proud because he admires Lucius, who always maintains a high and cold expression, and always wants to show pure blood nobility as much as possible. In addition, Narcissa's endless and unlimited indulgence has created some of Draco's bear-like characteristics. But even he doted on this younger brother very much, always showing off his brother's demeanor, as if Xia Lin needed care, allowing Xia Lin, who was an only child in his previous life, to enjoy the warmth of being taken care of by his brother. Butler Kokoro is a capable middle-aged man and a capable general of his father, but Sharon doesn't like him. He is very paranoid about the tedious family rules and etiquette, and often scolds Sharon for various trivial matters. Note: due to the presence of elves in the wizarding world, the servant system is certainly much simplified compared to Muggles. Here, Kokoro is set to play 3 roles: housekeeper, butler, deacon, and tutor, collectively referred to as the butler. If you believe that butlers cannot reprimand young masters, please refer to the Medical Children, published by Yale University, to see how strict the family guidance assigned by medieval churches was towards noble young masters. The author welcomes rational exploration, but if you want to spout something that you don't understand, it would be a loss of the reader's duty. On the contrary, Draco is highly favored and valued by Karkaro, as he fully inherits the arrogant and hypocritical spirit of the Malfoy family. His hair is always meticulously combed, and he even speaks with his nose in the air, and every sentence is slow. The relationship between Dobby and Sherlin is the best, a domestic elf. Whenever Sharon makes a mistake, such as accidentally damaging some precious items in the estate, Dobby always tries his best to cover up for Sharon and escape the punishment of the despicable Kokoro. Whenever Sharon is hungry in the dead of night, Dobby secretly sends food to Sharon. Of course, Sharon is also quite kind to Dobby. Whenever Sharon receives something novel and delicious from Narcissa, Sharon secretly saves a portion. When Dobby comes to his room at night, one person and one elf can sit together and share, experiencing the pleasure of snacking together. As one of the sacred 28 pure-blood families, the Malfoy family has an extreme paranoia towards the concept of pure-blood supremacy, and can even be said to be arrogant and domineering. As a modern traveler, Schelling is deeply rooted in the idea of equality for all, and has an irreconcilable direct conflict with the core concept of pure-blood supremacy in his family. During his childhood, Schelling was scolded by Lucius for showing some friendly behavior towards Muggles. But Sharon didn't take this to heart and continued to go his own way, just to avoid stimulating Lucius' nerves and having to reduce contact with Muggles. At least on the surface, when Lucius couldn't see it, Sharon still liked to try and use Muggle things in the Muggle world. He even played with the domestic elf Dobby. As for Narcissa, although she is also a stubborn supporter of pure-blood supremacy, due to her indulgence in her son, there is no major issue. Instead, she believes that her youngest son has his own opinions, but he is just young and inexperienced in the world. Also, due to her maintenance and persistent attitude, Lucius did not say anything to Sheldon. Originally, according to his personality, he would definitely scold Sheldon frequently, brainwash him, and try to deeply implant the concept of pure-blood supremacy in Sheldon's mind. Of course, there is another reason why Xia Lin can still live comfortably and leisurely in such a pure-blood family. Xia Lin is a genius who has shown amazing language talent since the age of 1, and his speed of learning language far exceeds that of his brother Draco. And Xia Lin's genius is not limited to language ability. He showed extraordinary learning talent at the age of 4. Lucius specially bought various Enlightenment books for his son, including written texts and numerical calculations. Xia Lin is skilled in various teaching methods and can even learn without a teacher. Of course, this is actually because Xia Lin still inherits the memories of his past life. Xia Lin felt very embarrassed about his genius title privately, and these learning contents were simply boring to him. Not to mention these simple early childhood Enlightenment contents, he was a true academic genius in his past life. He ranked first in the A-level National Unified Examination in the UK, and then received a scholarship to further his studies at the University of Cambridge. Finally, with excellent grades, he obtained a dual doctoral degree in archaeology and ancient anthropological linguistics, proficient in Latin languages such as English, French, Spanish, and more. After his rebirth journey, it seemed that due to experiencing brain development again, he found that his memory and comprehension were even stronger than in his previous life. No matter what he read, he could never forget, and no matter what he learned, he could quickly grasp and get started. Xiao Lin couldn't help but sigh, "Don't you forget what you read or hear, is it also a kind of golden finger? Is this the benefit of journey?" At the age of 4, Sharon successfully triggered a magical uprising, using his powerful thoughts to knock out the old butler Caro who was constantly lecturing him. He has been proven to have the potential to become a wizard. At the age of 11, he will be able to own his own wand and have the qualification to attend a magic school to systematically learn how to become a wizard. It has to be said that Schelling really breathed a sigh of relief for this. After all, he did not appear in the original work, and he cannot be sure if he has the potential to learn magic. Moreover, he knows how serious the discrimination in the wizarding world is against people who cannot learn magic. Commonly known as squibs. He cannot imagine the consequences of becoming a squib. On the day of Sharon's magical uprising, Narcissa was extremely excited. She hugged and kissed Sharon, while Lucius still had a high and cold expression that mimicked Buddhist principles. However, his slightly raised lips could not conceal the joy that filled his heart. Draco watched everything from the side, feeling extremely envious. As for the stunned butler, after being sent into the room by the elf, no one paid attention. Lucius and Narcissa prepared a simple celebration for Sharon, but Sharon was more concerned about his own eyes than the cakes and desserts in the celebration. Xia Lin found that when he was looking at his family, they were all shrouded in a faint and hazy white light. At one point, Schelling thought that there was something wrong with his eyes, but after several attempts, he finally figured out the reason. He found that his eyes only showed white light when he looked at wizards, magical creatures, or magical objects. If carefully observed, white light was like a small stream, slowly flowing on top of wizards or magical objects according to a strange pattern. Xia Lin suspected that the so-called white light was actually the legendary magic. This speculation was soon confirmed by Schelling in a family document. In the Middle Ages, the concept of pure blood supremacy was deeply rooted in the wizarding world and indeed had a certain reason to exist. At that time, the population of wizards was sparse and often persecuted by ignorant muggles. Pure-blooded wizards led by Salazar Slytherin, with the slogan of protecting pure-blooded wizards, aimed to unify the power of the wizarding world and protect the inheritance of wizards from muggle persecution. Later, the great Slytherin and his 3 companions founded Hogwarts, one of the greatest wizarding schools in the world, and opened up various magical knowledge to the vast wizarding community for generations, which will not be mentioned later. At that time, the pure-blood family had a very pure bloodline, which also carried the mysterious power as the origin of magic. In order to ensure the inheritance of bloodline power, it was necessary to rely on close marriage to ensure the purity of bloodline. Unfortunately, in those turbulent times, every Muggle witch hunt brought about a rapid reduction in the wizarding population, and even the extinction of some well-known wizarding families. Relying on intermarriage became increasingly impractical, and the wizarding families began cross-family marriages. Although still wearing the title of pure blood family, in fact, with the continuous dilution of blood from generation to generation, the power of blood has long disappeared without a trace, becoming an ancient legend passed down by the family. The so-called pure blood family in modern times and the pure blood family in the Middle Ages have actually been separated from each other. Only a few people have awakened the power of bloodline in the original work. In Schelling's memory, there are only Voldemort who speaks snake language, Tonks who naturally disguise as Magus, and Professor Trelawney, who has a thin prophetic lineage but has become a ghost. Harry Potter's snake language talent is acquired passively due to his attachment to Voldemort's soul fragments, and does not belong to innate bloodline power. As one of the oldest families inherited from the Middle Ages, the Malfoy family also harbors mysterious powers in its bloodline. However, according to the family's historical records, the Malfoy family has never had a precedent of awakening bloodline power since the third-generation descendant, Armand II Malfoy. Therefore, the phenomenon of Sharon's extraordinary magical uprising did not attract the attention of Lucius and Narcissa. For unknown reasons, Schelling was fortunate enough to awaken the bloodline power of the Malfoy family, which is known as the Eye of Magic in family records, capable of seeing through the flow of magic within himself and others with the naked eye. There is a record in the history of the family that Armand II Malfoy used his special ability to communicate with magic and create exclusive magical mysteries, writing a brilliant page in the history of the Malfoy family. Unfortunately, the record of this legendary wizard from Malfoy is very vague due to unknown reasons, with only a few words. The fact that Sharon awakened the Eye of Magic is a small secret that only belongs to Sharon. It's not that Xia Lin doesn't trust his loved ones, but as an adult soul, Xia Lin knows the importance of being low-key and being a killer. This special ability may come in handy in some unexpected situations. Through the Eye of Magic, Sharon can observe the magic value of every person within his line of sight. As is well known, the strength of a wizard largely depends on the magic he possesses. The most obvious example is in the original work. When Moody the fake Crazy Eye was teaching the killing curse in class, he said that the killing curse is a highly expendable spell. If he uses the student's pitiful magic to cast it, at most he can only make his nose bleed. Xia Lin quietly observed everyone in the family, and Lucius's magic was mixed with eerie gray and black. The total amount of magic was quite strong in the family, but due to Xia Lin's lack of comparison with external wizards, the exact strength is temporarily difficult to estimate. As for the mother Narcissa and the butler Cockero, the magic in their souls is very weak. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Family Background. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Family Background. Since Sharon sparked the magic riot, Lucius has been eager to cultivate Sharon's learning in magic. To the surprise and joy of the whole family, Schelling's learning talent has extended to the field of magic. Xia Lin also showed outstanding talent in the study of magic, and all kinds of magical knowledge were mastered at first glance. He even occasionally asked questions that Lucius could not answer. Soon, Lucius gave up personally guiding Xia Lin and allowed him to tinker with and research on his own. As a former academic achiever, Xia Lin spared the process of learning language and writing. Starting at the age of 4, he inherited his thirst for knowledge and tireless pursuit of learning from his past life, often indulging in extensive reading in his family's library. For centuries, members of the Malfoy family have been enriching the family's collection of books, covering a wide range of categories, including history, witchcraft, transformation, herbal medicine, warcraft, and even obscure ancient magical literature and alchemy, which can be found in the library. There are still many precious rare books here, and the value of an out-of-print magic book is immeasurable, which can be said to be priceless. These are the fundamental inheritances of the pure-blood wizard family, and no one will take them out unless absolutely necessary. Xia Lin's favorite is history books, and through his family's historical literature, he can gain a deeper and more complete understanding of this magical world than the original work. He deeply understood that this was a complete magical world, where everyone was a living person. This world not only had the Savior Harry and his companions, but also not just the Dark Lord Voldemort and his followers, but also various other people and lives, such as the spell solvers of the Egyptian pyramids, magical biologists who traveled the world, alchemists who created magical objects, and so on. What puzzled Xia Lin was that, as a family with a biased stance towards the Black Demon King in the original work, there were no books on black magic in the library. Perhaps it was because black magic books were inherently dangerous, and parents were worried that they might accidentally come into contact with their brother, which led to them being collected separately by their parents. The Pure Blood family, especially the Holy 28 Pure Blood family, has an ancient and unparalleled historical heritage. Don't be fooled by the fact that several pure-blooded families in the original work were submissive in the face of Voldemort. The true heritage of these families was never reflected in military force or combat, but they relied on monopolizing the lucrative industry in the wizarding world to control its economic lifeline, thus possessing countless wealth and strong political influence. What enables them to achieve this is not simply the inheritance of wealth, but the various precious magical secrets held by these ancient families. For example, the Ollivander family, with a history of over 2,000 years, relies on controlling the secrets of making wands and monopolizing 1/3 of the wand industry to create wealth. These documents that record family secrets are the most precious treasures of a family. Sharon knew that Voldemort's return was only a few years away, and if he wanted to protect himself or even protect his family, he had to compete for more minutes and seconds to enhance his strength. He, who was originally a top student, is even more diligent than ordinary people in absorbing all the knowledge in the family library. Xia Lin and Dobby had a good relationship, but after several years of trial and error, Xia Lin finally managed to persuade Dobby at the age of 5 to sneak into the family's secret room located under the living room with his own phantom while the whole family was out. Due to the heavy protective magic blocking the entrance of the secret room, it is impossible to enter without the correct unlocking spell. However, there is a loophole in the protective magic of the wizarding world, which is not paying attention to the magic of creatures they consider inferior, such as raising elves at home. So Xia Lin can rely on Dobby to use the unique elf magic of domestic elves to infiltrate the secret room. The ceiling of the secret room was adorned with several skeletons emitting eerie fluorescence, filling the dimly lit room with a faint glow. Rows of shelves can be seen on all 4 walls, filled with many eerie items that can be easily seen with black magic marks at a glance, including painted black skeletons, blood-stained daggers, eerie masks, rusty chains, and so on. These items are not accompanied by any instructions, so Schelling is confused about their names and usage. Schelling moved cautiously in the narrow secret room, trying to avoid accidentally touching any object here. Just kidding, even characters like Dumbledore who accidentally touched Voldemort's curse were considered dead. As his father, a former Death Eater, Schelling was certain that this terrifying dark magic item was definitely in his collection. Among the vast array of items, one of them was recognized by Sharon. It was an old-fashioned diary with a black cover and a very ordinary style, just like an ordinary diary in the Muggle world with Tom Riddle's name written on it. Xia Lin knew that this was Voldemort's first soul weapon in his life, and with his current strength, he would not rashly come into contact with it to seek hardship. After a few hurried glances at these terrifying dark magic items, Xia Lin arrived at the corner where books were stored. The books here are particularly ancient, and some of the covers are so old that even the words on them are unrecognizable. Xia Lin picked out 3 magic books from the pile of books, namely Dark Potion, Fallen Creatures, and Abater Volume 1. These 3 books appear very ancient from the outside, and many of their contents are even written using ancient runes. Then Xia Lin found the family's curse notebook in a dark grid, which recorded a secret curse that was only passed down by the legitimate descendants of the family. He asked Dobby to copy it for himself. Due to the fact that young wizards before the age of 11 are not allowed to possess wands in the wizarding world of England, Sharon can only copy the principles and methods of releasing the spell in advance, but cannot truly learn and apply it. Obtained from Dark Potion. Obtained from Fallen Creatures. Obtained from Abater Volume 1. Malfoy's Legacy Magic Curse obtained. As Xia Lin was about to leave with satisfaction, he caught a glimpse of a dusty and worn-out hourglass in the corner. If it weren't for Xia Lin's magical eyes seeing a faint wave of magic on the hourglass, the old appearance of this item would not have caught anyone's attention. In the magical world, items such as hourglasses and pocket watches that can emit magical waves usually only mean one thing. They come with time magic attached. Xia Lin packed the hourglass with excitement and summoned Dobby to come over. He used the magic unique to elves to imitate the magic book and the fake hourglass, and carefully eliminated all traces before leaving with Dobby's phantom. Time hourglass obtained. That's right, this time hourglass is a time converter, the first-generation sample passed down from the Middle Ages. In the sequel to the original work, even though all known time converters had been completely destroyed at the time, Lucius was still able to have Theodore Knott create 2 brand new time converters for him from scratch. Knott may have had some talent, but in his previous life, Schelling had always been very skeptical that Knott could create a time converter without samples or reference drawings. At this moment, Schelling confirmed his conjecture in his previous life. That Lucius had already had the oldest time converter, and Norte was just using it as a blueprint to improve a more practical time converter. Time magic is one of the most mysterious fields of magic, and Schelling knows that time magic has many rules. He doesn't want to cause terrible consequences by breaking the rules. This oldest time converter, although only able to bring Schelling back an hour before each flip of the hourglass, was already sufficient for Schelling. All he needed was more time to read and learn, similar to the usage of Hermione's excessive learning in 3rd grade in the original work. Being able to obtain such a cheat device at the beginning, Schelling couldn't help but exclaim how lucky he was. Although there is no limit to the number of times a time hourglass can be used, excessive and frequent use still poses a burden on the body, just as Hermione in the original work had to give up due to excessive fatigue. Therefore, Sharon only flips the hourglass 4 times a day, using the extra 4 hours for learning, so he is immersed in reading and learning day after day. There are over 100 books in the library, but with the help of the time hourglass, Xia Lin finished reading all the books at the age of 9 and gained a knowledge that is difficult for ordinary people to reach. As for those 3 black magic books, Schelling currently has no plans to come into contact with them, as they usually carry inherent dangers. It would be reckless and foolish for Schelling to recklessly approach them with his current strength. As for Malfoy's family magic, although Sharon had never practiced it, he had already memorized the steps and various details of casting spells. With nothing to do, Xia Lin began to use his brain again. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Enhancing Strength. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Enhancing Strength. After the age of 9, perhaps it was Lucius and Narcissa who felt that it was time for their children to make friends, or perhaps they saw a trend towards Sharon becoming a otaku and began inviting some children of similar age and status to play at home, hoping that Sharon and Draco could find like-minded friends before entering school. However, among these invited children who are considered close in status, almost all come from pure-blooded families with similar social status to the Malfoy family, such as Theodore Knott of the Knott family, Pansy Parkinson of the Parkinson family, Millicent Bird of the Bertrand family, Gregory Gore of the Gore family, Vincent Clabb of the Clabb family, and so on. In Xia Lin's eyes, these are a group of arrogant, ignorant, and spoiled little brats by their parents. It's strange that Xia Lin can get along with them well. Moreover, as far as Xia Lin knows, more than half of the fathers of the children here are still Death Eaters. Draco is quite imposing. With the help of the Malfoy family's lineage, he easily subdued the 2 henchmen, Gore and Crabbe. Although these 2 big boys were a bit silly, their sturdy physique was a perfect bodyguard. Even the eye-catching Pansy Parkinson seemed to have a slight fondness for Draco and admired his somewhat childish arrogance. To be honest, at this time, Pansy had short black hair, big black eyes, a pointed nose, and 2 small dimples. She looked quite cute, but her personality was very bad. Except when facing Draco and Sharon, her words were very sharp and sarcastic, always taking pleasure in mocking others. Both Gore and Crabbe referred to her as the little witch in private. Theodore Knott is one of the few people who does not flatter Draco by giving up his position. The Knott family has a strong reputation in the wizarding world of England and has a considerable industry in producing alchemy items. They are both the 2 giants of the British alchemy world, along with the Bach family. Theodore himself has a good talent, but his personality is a bit stinky, in other words, it's unbearable narcissism. But Draco really likes him. Draco has told Schelling more than once that he thinks Theodore is the only pure figure worth making him interact with equally. Whenever these little brats gather, Schelling will find various excuses to evade. If the gathering is at Malfoy Manor, Schelling will find an opportunity to sneak out in advance. Draco, on the other hand, is immersed in the mutual praise between several people. He is very enthusiastic about participating in various activities in this small circle, and Sharon often sees him playing and gathering with friends outside. Xia Lin was also invited by them several times, but after being rejected by Xia Lin several times, Draco felt that his very thoughtful younger brother didn't seem to particularly enjoy hanging out with his friends, so he didn't take it seriously. From then on, everyone at gatherings would automatically leave Xia Lin behind. After learning about this, Narcissa was not very happy. She nagged Xia Lin several times, but seeing Xia Lin's expression of indifference, she knew that her words were probably casting pearls before swine. Over time, she could only let Xia Lin's loneliness go. However, after Sharon noticed the strong and tall figures of Crabbe and Gore, he also began to put exercising on his schedule. Not being able to learn spells does not mean that one cannot enhance their combat strength. In the wizarding world of Harry Potter, the battle between wizards generally depends on three factors: the power of releasing a spell, the hit rate of both sides in the battle, and the evasion rate. After all, only a spell that hits the target is an effective spell. Only in rare cases, battles between wizards can be dragged into a prolonged battle due to a balance of power, and the total amount of magic will become the key final factor in winning. From this, it can be seen that for combat-type wizards, physical fitness is actually very important. Only agile wizards can have a great survival rate in melee. Without the knowledge of his family, Sharon began to secretly engage in physical training with Dobby in the quiet of the night every day. When reading the original work, Sharon had long wanted to complain that the Hogwarts wizards had never participated in any physical fitness training and only focused their time on learning knowledge and spells. In the entire 7-year Hogwarts education system, the only one that could be related to physical education was the first-grade flying class, which only lasted for a short year. It's not surprising that the little wizards can master so many spells, but their actual combat performance is incredibly mediocre. Perhaps this is because in times of peace, unless they aspire to become Aurora, young wizards would rather learn more household spells than spend time exercising their physical abilities, which is more practical. Xia Lin was a wilderness survival expert in his past life, with considerable expertise in long-distance running, climbing, diving, and combat. He drew inspiration from the combat descriptions between wizards in the original work and drew on the training methods of war games in the Muggle world, specifically designing a systematic physical training process for dodge rate and hit rate. He had Dobby aim at himself to release harmless marker-type spells. Being hit by a spell would only leave a mark like ink, while he moved around in the narrow space, practicing various dodge techniques and gradually accelerating Dobby's casting speed to increase the difficulty of his evasion. After practicing the dodge technique, Xia Lin took a break and started asking Dobby to use a flying spell to create paper birds dancing in the sky. He then used a dart to practice aiming to make sure to practice until he could hit every paper bird. During the day, Sharon also developed a habit of diligently reading the prophets daily, actively understanding the big and small events that occur in the wizarding world in today's peaceful era. With nothing to do, Schelling remembered in the original work that Bill, the leader of the Wesley family, seemed to have a pen pal studying at the Castro Blanche School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in Brazil. On a whim, he wrote a letter to the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, expressing his desire to use a small column to publish an international friendship inspiration under the pen name Little Shrimp. To Xia Lin's surprise, the newspaper's response was extremely rapid. Within a few days, he received a reply from the editor-in-chief of the newspaper. He agreed to promote communication in the international wizarding world and release this friendship guide for Xia Lin for free. Xia Lin couldn't help but think that this may be because newspapers in peacetime also lacked materials. A few weeks later, Xia Lin received several letters of friendship and successfully made several foreign pen pals. Among them, one of the pen pals who communicated the most frequently and in sync was a pen pal living in North America, and another was a pen pal living as far away as Japan. Through the exchange of letters between pen pals, they also gained a preliminary understanding of the magical world outside of the UK. From then on, every weekend, Xia Lin gained another habit of reading and replying to letters. After his parents learned about this matter, Lucius sneered but did not comment. In Lucius's eyes, the British wizarding world was the most powerful and noble wizarding world in the world, and other places were just remote and backward barbarian lands. There were many people in the British wizarding world who had this kind of thinking. After all, the inheritance of North American wizarding came from England. However, the distant East is recognized as somewhat backward in both economy and politics. What Narcissa was considering in her heart was actually Sharon's mental health. She often stared at Sharon with a complex gaze, probably due to the illusion that Sharon lacked like-minded friends and caused loneliness in her heart. She could also see that Sharon did not like the small circle of pure-blood descendants, so her heart was filled with guilt as a mother. Of course, Xia Lin doesn't take his parents' opinions very seriously either. When Xia Lin told his parents that he had finished reading hundreds of books in the family library, even the cold Lucius couldn't help but show a surprised and happy expression. Narcissa suggested taking Sharon to visit Sharon's grandmother, Druella Black. Druella had visited Sharon's house once when she was very young and loved Sharon very much. In fact, Sharon and Draco were the only two grandsons she recognized. Xia Lin has two aunts. Aunt Bellatrix, who joined the Death Eaters after getting married and did not give birth to any children, while Aunt Andromeda was removed from the family tree by marrying a Muggle wizard. Druella lived alone in a small mansion in Wiltshire, and when she saw her beloved grandson visit, her face was filled with uncontrollable joy. She was overjoyed to hear that Sharon wanted to stay a few days. So when Schelling suggested wanting to read the book collection, Druella took out all the books from the house in one breath and let Schelling read them enough. The collection of books in Druera's family was inherited by her and her deceased husband Sienna's Black from their respective families. Before her marriage, Druera was originally a daughter of the Rochelle family, so some of the books in the collection were from the Black family, while others were from the Rosier family. A large part of them were sent to the Malfoy estate with Narcissa's extramarital marriage at an early age. Then Aunt Bellatrix and her wife were arrested after the First Wizarding War and sent to the wizarding prison of Azkaban, where they were sentenced to life imprisonment. According to wizarding property law, except for Gringotts vault, their other property must be transferred to Druella's name. This allowed Sharon to find a bargain. He not only found the classics of the Black and Rochelle families in the Druella family's collection, but also some of the Lestrange family's collections, totaling over 100 scattered copies. Although Druella is old, she is not yet dementia. There are no black magic books in the books she brought out to Sharon, but some secret spells from the Black, Rochelle, and Lestrange families are indispensable. Xia Lin knew that these were the most precious knowledge of the pure blood family, and every day he greedily absorbed all the knowledge he could absorb using the hourglass of time. After staying at their grandmother's mansion for a month, Sharon and Narcissa bid farewell to Druera, whose faces were filled with reluctance. Druera generously gave all the books to Sharon and ordered a family elf named Sasha to deliver them directly to Sharon's bedroom in Malfoy Manor. Black's family curse obtained. Rochelle's family curse obtained. Lestrange's family curse obtained. Narcissa saw that Sharon's bedroom was cluttered with disorderly books, which was both helpless and funny. She bought a portable book bag engraved with the untraced stretching curse, and the space inside was like an open library, allowing Sharon to store tens of thousands of books. Sharon really liked this gift, which made him feel like he had his own private library. He couldn't wait to neatly arrange all the books from Druella's house into the bookshelf space, only to find that he could only barely fill 1% of the bookshelves in the space. Obtained from private library. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Invitation to Enrollment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Invitation to Enrollment. 1 year has passed, and Sharon is already 10 years old. During this year, due to a nutritious diet and sufficient physical exercise, Sharon's figure is very slender and straight, half a head taller than his brother Draco. Coupled with a handsome appearance and a warm and jade-like temperament, Sharon has a completely rich and handsome appearance. As his older brother, Draco often feels both envious and jealous. If we only look at his height, Draco has the illusion that Sharon is his brother. It's not just about appearance, the two brothers are biological twins, but their personalities are vastly different. Draco developed a proud and arrogant style that resembled Lucius due to his blind worship of his father, although his behavior remained childish. Xiaolin, on the other hand, has no inherited personality from his parents. He is always low-key and quiet, humble and courteous, confident but not ostentatious, more like a Hufflepuff. Lucius and Narcissa, although satisfied with Sharon's maturity and stability surpassing their peers, were even more fond of Draco, who was arrogant and domineering. After all, Draco's personality was more in line with the usual style of the Malfoy family, and a bit of childishness could also inspire parents to take care of their calves. Thanks to Xiaolin's tireless efforts throughout the year, he finally finished reading the collection of books he had brought from his grandmother's house. Xiaolin began to make plans to go to Square 12 in Grimmauld. Over the past year, Xiaolin has been inquiring about the exact location of Black's old house through letters to his beloved grandmother. On this day, under the guidance of Dobby, he appeared in a phantom and arrived at Square 12 in Grimmauld, where he met the solitary house elf Cleach. At this time, Klitcher was already over 600 years old, and even at the age of an elf, he had reached a stage of sagging old age. As described in the original work, he lived alone in the empty old house of Blake. Due to the constraints of contract magic on his household elf, he could not leave the house for half a step without the owner's permission. He could only converse with the portrait of his old owner, Mrs. Blake, all year round, so his personality became a bit crazy. But when it found out that Schelling was the son of Narcissa and also had black ancestry, it automatically regarded Schelling as its half-owner, with respect and obedience in its tone and attitude. Xiaolin knew that domesticated elves are intelligent creatures and actually know how to repay kindness. Only by being friendly to domesticated elves can one truly gain their loyalty. Sirius in the original work made this mistake and died indirectly. Sherlin did not show a condescending attitude towards Cleach just because of his apparent submissiveness. Instead, he showed gentle and friendly care and comfort to Cleach, allowing him to change into clean clothes and give him some candies and snacks brought from home. He immediately moved Cleach to tears of gratitude and fiercely brushed off a wave of loyalty. Klitcher took the initiative to take Sharon on a tour of the Black family's mansion. As a luxurious mansion of the Black family, number 12 Grimmauld Square is a typical pure-blood wizard's house, with decorations everywhere that have a history of hundreds of years. Many of them are silver artifacts forged by ancient fairies, and if placed outside, these objects are definitely priceless antiques. After Voldemort's return, this house will be used as the headquarters of the Order of Phoenix, and it is still uninhabited, naturally not protected by magic. From the thick dust around it, it can be seen that no one has been here for a long time. Arriving at the studio on the second floor, there was a very large tapestry hanging on one of the walls, almost covering the entire wall. The tapestry recorded the Black family's genealogy, which can be traced back to the 12th century. Unlike the relatively small population of the Malfoy family, the Blake family is actively spending money and can be said to be the most widely branched family among pure-blood families. At a glance, almost all pure-blooded families with names and surnames in Great Britain have had alliances with the Black family. Xiaolin was surprised to find that her name also appeared in the Black family genealogy. After asking Cleach, she found out that Mrs. Black passed away in 1985, when she was 5 years old, and her name had already been embroidered since the day she was born. Sharon remembers that there was still a Slytherin pendant box, one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, stored in this room, but Sharon, who was not yet in school, dared not have any illusions about it. He was aware of the danger of encountering a Horcrux. Inside the Horcrux, there are fragments of Voldemort's remaining soul, which have self. awareness and can bewitch and erode the souls and lives of those who come into contact with it. Xia Lin's goal for this trip is the library of the Black family. As the oldest Holy 28 pure blood family, the collection of books in the Black family is superior to the Malfoy family in both quality and quantity. It contains many out-of-print magic books, even rare ones from the Middle Ages, which excites Sharon, who is thirsty for knowledge. Anyway, there are no successors in the Black family. Instead of letting these precious books fall into the hands of Harry Potter, who doesn't love reading, and letting the treasures fall into dust and waste, it would be better to benefit oneself. I can barely be considered a side member of the Black family, and I am more qualified than that outsider Harry Potter. After obtaining Klitcher's consent in the name of a member of the Black family, Sharon bluntly packed all of the Black family's books in a backpack and took them away. There are also hundreds of books in this collection, just like the collections of the Malfoy family, covering almost all fields of magic. Many of the records about ancient magic symbols can be mutually confirmed with what Sharon has read in the Malfoy collection, which surprised and delighted Sharon. But the most precious one still belongs to the Black family's secret magic spell notes, which are only inherited by the legitimate lineage. Part of this note has already been read by Sharon at his maternal grandmother's house, but after all, the Black mansion inherits the paternal surname, while Druella's only daughter is considered a maternal surname inheritance. Therefore, the notes found here at the Black mansion are relatively more complete and complete. Black family's legacy magic curse supplement obtained. Unfortunately, there are still no black magic books in the collection of the Black family. Schelling speculates that, like the Malfoy family, the Black family also has a secret room specifically for storing prohibited items. Sharon specifically asked Cleach about this, and Cleach said he knew nothing about it. Due to the enslaved nature of the domestic elves, Klitcher is unable to lie to Schelling, and it also has no motive to lie. Xia Lin can only infer that the secret of this secret room is likely only controlled by the core members of the family, and the household elves have no right to access it. Afterwards, life returned to two simple lines. Crazy book brushing during the day, physical training with Dobby at night, and only relaxing a little on weekends, reading pen pals' letters and writing replies with dedication. Before his 11th birthday, academic genius Xia Lin, with the help of a time cheat, successfully finished reading the books and literature of the Black family. Through the cross-comparison and integration of the collections of two major families, Schelling not only gained a clear understanding of the history of the wizarding world, the formation of magic, and the development of magic spells, but also his greatest gain was in piecing together many historical secrets about the Middle Ages based on the clues in a large number of books, as well as successfully mastering the interpretation and deciphering of ancient runic magic texts through self-learning. The ancient runic script of the wizarding world and the ancient human language of Muggle have the same mother writing system, both composed of 22 Phoenician scripts. However, as wizards discovered the magic hidden in the script, the ancient runic script gradually formed its own writing system over time. Ancient wizards developed various exclusive runic symbols, which gathered and transmitted magic, and were particularly common in alchemy. However, with the advent of the peaceful era, the use of magic became more and more life-oriented, and the use of ancient runic script has gradually declined. Xia Lin was an expert in ancient human languages in his past life. Through his experience in the past and the rich collection of books from the two major families, he quickly discovered the rules of ancient runic magic texts and the key to deciphering them. If anyone knew about this, it would be a remarkable achievement. The difficulty of understanding ancient magical texts is well known. According to Hogwarts' normal pace, ancient magical texts are an elective subject that can only be taken in 3rd grade, and that course only teaches how to recognize common foundations such as NI symbols and words. In contrast, Schelling, who was already able to hold on to historical documents written in ancient magical script and read them with great interest, his level of ancient magical literature far exceeded the highest level that Hogwarts could teach. Xia Lin, who is only a few days away from his 11th birthday, began to examine his progress at the beginning and must be said to be very satisfied with his current achievements. Although I was born into a family that stood in the wrong line and may be involved in a family tragedy in a few years, my starting point is much stronger than the protagonist Harry in the original work. Compared to Harry, who is a novice wizard, his understanding of the wizarding world can be said to be quite thorough. The family's bloodline power and secret spell inheritance ensure his potential in the future. More importantly, he has the time hourglass, which is an incredible cheating tool. His life at Hogwarts is destined to be a super academic path. Just as Schelling was full of fantasies and aspirations for life at Hogwarts, his 11th birthday arrived quickly, and both Schelling and Draco received admission invitations from Hogwarts. The two brothers naturally knew what was going on, so they went downstairs to the hall and told their parents about it. On the second page of the invitation letter, the parchment also lists the textbooks, wizard robes, cloaks, wands, crucibles, and other items required for Hogwarts in first grade. Baby, Narcissa's eyes were filled with emotion and reluctance. I didn't expect you to reach school age so soon. You've grown up and need to leave home to learn magic. Mom really can't bear to part with you. Mother, don't be sad. When I learn magic, I will protect you and father, and protect the glory of pure blood, Draco assured by patting his chest. Yes, mother. Xia Lin took the conversation and said, the school is not far from home either. We come back every Christmas and summer vacation. Lucius coughed lightly and said coldly, I have something to say. Hogwarts education has declined over the years, and I heard from your Uncle Snape that Gryffindor has become the most popular college, while Slytherin has been excluded and marginalized. This is not the worst, Lucius snorted coldly. Originally, Hogwarts did not allow the study of black magic, and the only combat course was the so-called Black Magic Defense course. Over the past few decades, the professors of the Black Magic Defense course have been changing every year, and their quality and level have been deteriorating. Last year's news also mentioned that the Hall Defense professor was actually attacked and killed by an unknown beast in the Forbidden Forest. I think, Lucius said indifferently, you can get a better education by going to Demstrong. There are few restrictions on black magic research there, and you don't have to live with non-pure blood students. What do you think? Demstrong is one of the 3 well-known magic schools in Europe, open to young wizards from all over Europe. However, it only admits students from pure blood families, with a strict school atmosphere and a strong emphasis on discipline. It is said that there is a tradition of valuing the strong among students, and competition is very fierce. Are you willing to let our precious son go so far? It's still a small island, how inconvenient it would be. Narcissa was worried about her 2 children. After all, Hogwarts is located in Great Britain, while Demstrong is located in the Scandinavian peninsula in northern Europe, which is far away. It's not easy to apply to leave school during the holiday period, so she prefers to send her 2 sons to Hogwarts, which is closer to home. Don't forget what kind of person Karlov, the current principal of Demstrong, is, said Narcissa with a pout. She looks down on people like Karlov, who have been suspected of being a Death Eater and implicated. He is the only one who escaped punishment by betraying his accomplices, which shows how unreliable he is. On Hogwarts, you are still the chairman of the board, maybe you can take care of him. You know I'm not on the right path with that old man with a white beard, Lucius said with a slightly unpleasant expression. He tried his last effort. After all, he genuinely believed that his 2 sons could receive a better education in Demstrong. I think Demstrong is more suitable for him. Seeing the 2 arguing endlessly, Xia Lin spoke up. I have decided to go to Hogwarts, Sharon said calmly. Hogwarts teaching philosophy has indeed been challenged in recent years, but the principal's reputation and status in Great Britain are still unshakable. As for Slytherin's exclusion, don't we have Uncle Snape to take care of him? Don't worry. If my younger brother is going to Hogwarts, Draco said hastily, then I will also go there. I am my brother, and taking care of my younger brother is my responsibility. In fact, Draco himself has an indispensable attitude towards these things, but since my younger brother and a few good friends he has already become acquainted with will go to Hogwarts, he naturally voted for Hogwarts as well. You guys, oh, okay. Lucius shrugged helplessly in agreement with the unanimous opinion of his mother and son. In a few days, we'll go to Diagon Alley together to buy your school supplies, including. Lucius' stern face finally showed a hint of smile. The wand you've been longing for. All right. The two brothers cheered at the same time. Diagon Alley is located in London, quite a distance from Wiltshire, where Malfoy Manor is located. On the day they set off for Diagon Alley, Sharon and Draco got up early in the morning. They had breakfast prepared by Dobby with a lively expression on their faces, and then the four of them boarded the family's luxurious and nocturnal carriage together. After Lucius recited the spell and destination, the patterns on the carriage's body flowed with a faint magical radiance, slowly rising into the air and flying all the way to Diagon Alley. Xia Lin, who is familiar with the original work, knows that in front of the empty carriage, it is pulled by an invisible night spirit. Only those who have seen death can see the night spirit with the naked eye. The Malfoy family is truly the most powerful family today, and Schelling and others don't need to take a detour through the dirty and dilapidated Cauldron Bar to land directly from above to the exclusive carriage parking spot in Diagon Alley. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Purchasing Equipment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Purchasing equipment. As experienced Lucius and Narcissa both knew that purchasing a wand was the most time-consuming thing. The first stop of shopping was chosen at the Ollivander Wand Store. After pushing open the old shop door, the shop rang with jingling bells. Xia Lin looked around and saw that the shop was very small, with nothing in front of the counter except for a bench. Not far away, there are thousands of narrow cardboard boxes almost sized up to the ceiling. Ollivander has been engaged in the wand industry for nearly 2,000 years and is one of the 3 major wand manufacturers in Europe. Schelling remembers that the Ollivander family is also one of the Holy 28 pure-blood families. Good morning, a soft voice came, and an old man seemed to suddenly appear in front of them. Draco was startled and involuntarily grabbed Schelling's clothes. It is obvious that this old man is the owner of this shop, Gary Ollivander. Schelling's pupils revealed a special sensitivity in the old man's magic in front of him. Although he was much weaker than Lucius, he dared not underestimate the old man in front of him and respectfully replied, "Mr. Ollivander, my brother and I are new students at Hogwarts this year. We need a new wand." Of course, of course. Ollivander's gaze was fixed on Schelling. Wizards need wands to cast magic, but remember, it's the wand that chooses the wizard. So, Mr. Malfoy, who will come first? Sharon pushed Draco over. Ollivander measured his size from shoulder to fingertip, then from wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and finally measured his head circumference. Then he took out a wand and asked Draco to try it out. Draco tried several times and ultimately chose his wand made of hawthorn wood and unicorn fur. It's exactly 10 inches, with some elasticity, and the design is appropriate. Well, unicorn fur, it seems Draco is still a simple child, Sharon thought. Unicorn is a beautiful animal that can be seen in the forests of northern Europe. A unicorn with a fully grown body is a horse with pure white fur and horns, and unicorns are often attracted to simple and kind people, which also gives them the characteristics of Mao Qinlai, a kind person. The hawthorn wand is particularly favored by wizards with conflicting personalities or those who are currently experiencing their own period of confusion. It was Sharon's turn, and after completing all the measurements, the tape measure slid onto the ground and shrunk into a ball, while Ollivander also picked up a wand. Xia Lin had just grasped it in his hand when he took it back. He frowned and thought for a while, then took out a wand for Sharon to try to grip, but as soon as Sharon held it in his hand, he took it back. So he tried one after another, and the same situation kept repeating. Sharon noticed that the wrinkles between Ollivander's eyebrows deepened a bit with each attempt. Even Lucius, who was standing on the side, felt something was wrong and couldn't help but speak up. "Garrick, how could this be? You probably don't even have a wand that suits my son here, do you?" This sentence seemed to hit Ollivander's sore spot, and he exclaimed, "Impossible." He looked directly at Sharon, as if trying to see something from him. He whispered, "The history of the Ollivander family's staff making has exceeded 2,000 years, and there has never been a precedent where it cannot meet customer needs." He took a few steps back and forth, murmuring incessantly before finally stopping. He lifted his head and revealed his slightly congested eyes, as if he had made an incredible decision. He pulled out his wand and recited to the ceiling, "The secret is flying." The ceiling made a rumbling sound, and a black hole suddenly appeared. A redwood box with 4 egg-sized gemstones inlaid on it slowly drifted down from the hole. During the descent, the gemstone shone brightly, emitting 4 brilliant colors: red, blue, green, and white. Ollivander reached out and took the redwood box, as if caressing his lover. He gently rubbed the patterns on the box with his palm, his face filled with nostalgia. He lightly tapped the box with his wand, and the brilliance on the gemstone disappeared in an instant. The box opened upwards on its own, revealing a small, unattractive wooden stick. The small wooden stick is longer than all the wands Sharon has ever seen, at least 15 inches long, completely pitch black, just like the kind of burnt stick he used to hold when making a fire in the wilderness in his previous life. "Try this one, 15.5 inches, made of grapevine wood, with a stem made of the tail feather of a night vernon. This is the last wand made by my great-grandfather, who was a very famous wand maker at the time." Ollivander carefully took out the wand, as if holding his beloved treasure, and slowly handed it to Schelling. Faced with this eerie situation, Xia Lin first exchanged a glance with Lucius, and after Lucius nodded slightly imperceptibly, he reached out to take the small wooden stick. Xia Lin just received it, and a stream of heat poured into his body from his fingers. The warmth flowed through his body, as if he was building a connection with himself. This made him feel a bit strange, as if he was holding a small animal with only life and thought in his hand. Suddenly, the texture on the wand's body lit up with a crimson glow, and Schelling's palm only felt a scorching heat flow. With a gentle shake, the tip of the wand emitted a white halo, like ripples in the water, spreading outward in circles. A gentle whirlwind swept through the store, swirling around Sharon and his wand. The air was filled with the faint whining of horses, and Sharon carefully felt this strange state. He felt as if something was missing from his body as well as something else. "Wonderful, very wonderful." Ollivander's voice became softer and softer. "I don't really like using the tail feathers of the thestral, but it goes without saying, sir, you and this wand are indeed a very wonderful combination." "I'm sorry, Mr. Ollivander." Sharon couldn't help but ask in a low voice, "What was there that made you feel wonderful just now?" Xia Lin is indeed curious. Most of the wands made by Ollivander use materials from the bodies of phoenixes, unicorns, and dragons as the core, while the inner core of the wand in his hand is the tail feather of a nightingale, which is different from other wands made by Ollivander. "Do you all know the story of Peter the Poet?" "The story of the 3 brothers?" asked Ollivander softly. After seeing both Sharon and Draco nod, he continued, "The leader of the 3 brothers used the invincible wand. According to the conclusion drawn from my ancestors' research, that wand was made with the tail feather of the night vernon as its core. As is well known, the nightingale is considered a symbol of misfortune." Ollivander stared at Sharon with his milky white pupils. "This is a very eerie substance that can only be controlled by wizards who can control death. And the vine wand is not very common, and I couldn't help but notice that their owners are always those ambitious but not flashy wizards. My great-grandfather has always wanted to create a work that can rival or even surpass the legendary old wand. Personally, I believe that this wand combination is superior to the old wand. The old wand only accepts powerful wizards as its masters, and excessive pursuit of power will only bring misfortune. The owners of the old wand have rarely had a good ending, and this wand is much more introverted in temperament. I believe its owner Mr. Malfoy, Ollivander grabbed Schelling's arm and a fervent emotion flashed through his pupils. I can assure you that you will achieve extraordinary success in the future. I hope that in my lifetime, I can hear your name as the owner of this wand, sung throughout Great Britain, oh no, throughout the wizarding world. Xia Lin's heart was very complicated, but he also breathed a sigh of relief for the end of this wand purchase. Lucius, knowing that his son had found a treasure, spontaneously took out a bag full of 30 gallons and fortressed it for Ollivander, but Ollivander refused to accept it no matter what. He only said that as long as Sharon could treat the wand well, his wish would be enough. Next, in order to save time, the Malfoy family decided to act separately. Lucius went to the bookstore to buy textbooks, Narcissa went to buy crucibles and potion materials, while Schelling and Draco went to Madame Morkan's robe store to buy uniforms. On the way to Madame Morkan's robe shop, Xia Lin curiously looked at the shops around him. There was a dim Ella Owl shop, and deep and soft moans could be heard inside. Several children of the same age as them were lying on a shop window, staring intently at a flying broomstick. Xia Lin heard a boy say, "Look. This is the latest model of the Lightwheel 2000. The fastest flying broomstick." Returning to his senses, Sharon suddenly realized that Draco was quiet and somewhat abnormal at the moment. "Sharon, Ollivander said you will become an extraordinary wizard in the future, and I am nothing." "I feel weak," Draco said sourly, lowering his head. Seeing his appearance, Sharon didn't even know what was wrong with him. He hugged Draco's neck and said, "Of course I would be an extraordinary wizard, and I don't even know whose brother I am. It's just that you haven't practiced well, do you think?" He then shook Draco's shoulder. "You're just too playful. Making friends is a good thing, but indulging in hypocritical mutual praise and neglecting real learning is putting the cart before the horse." "Ha ha ha, you're really right." Draco suddenly realized and smiled, "I have to start working hard too. As my brother, I will never lose to him." Madame Morkan was a short, chubby witch with a smiling face, dressed in purple clothes. She stood at the store entrance and saw Sharon and Draco, so she smiled and said, "Oh, two young gentlemen, are you going to buy Hogwarts school uniforms? We have a lot here, all kinds of styles, fabrics, and sizes." Xia Lin smiled faintly and said, "Just give each of us 3 sets of fitted ordinary plain robes. Besides, I have some other requirements myself. Can we buy the uniforms first and then discuss them in detail?" Just as the two were being taken to the back of the store for a young witch to measure their size, Schelling heard someone come in again to measure their size. He turned his head and saw a young man with black hair and a thin figure, feeling in his heart that the boy seemed to have met before. Draco also turned his head at this moment and said, "Hey, are you going to Hogwarts too?" The other party seemed a bit at a loss and could only nod their heads in disbelief. Draco continued, "My dad is helping us buy books next door, and my mom is buying school supplies on the street. Then I'm going to drag them to see a broomstick. I don't understand why first-year students can't have their own broomstick. I think I'm going to force Dad to buy me a broomstick and find a way to sneak it in, right?" Xia Lin rolled his eyes and ignored Draco. Instead, he smiled kindly at the little boy and said, "Hello, my name is Xia Lin Malfoy. This is my brother, Draco Malfoy. We are all new students who will be attending Hogwarts this year. Nice to meet you." "Oh, hello, my name is Harry Potter, and I'm glad to meet you both," Harry replied. "Merlin's beard, are you really Harry Potter?" Draco asked excitedly. "Oh, I mean, it's nice to see you." The three of them stood together and chatted for a while about their fantasies and aspirations for Hogwarts, and then talked about flying broom and Quidditch. After buying the uniform, Harry bid farewell to the two of them. He needed to buy other things. Draco was excited and wanted to take Sharon to see the flying broomstick, but Sharon sent Draco away on the grounds that he was not very interested in Quidditch. He stayed behind to ask Mrs. Morkan about the types of wizard robes. Madame Morkan's robe store not only sells Hogwarts student uniforms and plain robes, but also offers a variety of daily wizard robes in various styles. There are decorative robes with carved stripes emitting a faint golden light on them, slim-fitting robes that make people look slimmer, loose-fitting robes that make people look relaxed, robes that can automatically lengthen with height, and constant temperature robes that can be warm in winter and cool in summer. By the way, all the robes sold by Madame Morkin come with two functions: automatic ironing and automatic repair, so there is no need to worry about wrinkles, moisture, and damage. Xia Lin had a question when reading the original work in his previous life. The style of the wizard robe was passed down from the design and aesthetics of the medieval era, and for over 1,000 years, it has remained stagnant in appearance and design without any improvement. Putting aside the subjective factor of whether it looks good or not, this spacious and fluffy wizard robe is not conducive to running and agile evasion. It can be a drag in battles between wizards, let alone the unfortunate situation of being tripped by one's own wizard robe. Moreover, these wizard robes do not come with any practical functions attached, such as the ability to defend against certain evil spells, the ability to reduce weight, increase agility and speed, or the ability to change appearance at any time and use transformation techniques to disguise themselves, etc. Based on Xia Lin's understanding of the wizarding world and magic, it is not impossible to create a wizard robe with these functions. After Xia Lin raised the question to Mrs. Morkin looked at Xia Lin with a very complicated expression. She was amazed by the various creativity and ideas proposed by the young boy in front of her. She explained to Sharon that she could indeed make a robe with the functions described by Sharon, but first of all, the wizarding world has been peaceful for a long time, and she believes that this expensive wizarding robe will not have a large market. Secondly, she also acknowledges that the wizarding world has been stagnant for too long, and compared to the increasingly progressive Muggles, the wizarding world has indeed fallen far behind in terms of aesthetic and functional requirements for clothing. Then Sharon requested Mrs. Morkin to specially tailor a set of combat wizarding robes for herself and express her needs one by one. The cutting of this combat robe is mainly tailored to fit snugly, and the fabric is made of bird and snake skin. This can have enough elasticity to ensure the flexibility of the body. Visually, it looks more like a Muggle suit jacket. A hidden pocket must be sewn at the two cuffs to allow oneself to store wands or other weapons, so that one can enter combat mode anytime, anywhere. The pocket of the robe should be expanded with a traceless stretching spell to accommodate at least one's luggage and carry-on backpack. In addition, the fabric also needs to undergo special alchemical treatment to ensure that it will never be stained with dust and stains including blood. The waterproof and moisture-resistant function can keep Sharon clean and dry at all times. Of course, the function of constant temperature and breathability is also necessary to ensure that you can wear comfortably in any season and place. Originally, Xia Lin wanted to add functions such as defending against evil spells, reducing gravity, and changing appearance, but Mrs. Morkin said she was really powerless in this regard. No matter how much Jean Jelong Xia Lin added, it would not work, and Xia Lin had no choice but to give up. The cutting, sewing, and special handling of this battle robe were quite cumbersome and time-consuming. Originally, Madame Morkin did not intend to take on this business. After all, with Madame Morkin's status in the wizarding clothing industry, she was not lacking in business or money. However, when Schelling announced that she planned to take this idea to the Devil's Clothing Store and try it out, which may establish a new reputation and bring new fame to the Devil's Clothing Store, Madame Morkin wavered. Madame Morkin actually knows that the fashion design in the wizarding world is too scarce and dull. If the Tuafen Clothing Store really takes this opportunity to open up a new market, it will seriously threaten her future market share. Thinking of this, Madame Morkin had to agree to Xia Lin's best efforts. This battle robe is worth a whopping 30 gold crowns, more than 7 times that of a typical wizard robe. Mrs. Morkin said she needed 2 weeks to cut and sew it. After Sharon paid half of the deposit, she agreed to deliver it directly to Sharon in the form of an owl delivery after the work was completed, and Sharon left happily. In the evening, as the shops in Diagon Alley closed one after another, Mr. Ollivander sat on a chair at the Ollivander wand shop. In front of him was an open, empty mahogany box. He stared blankly at the box and muttered to himself, "Grandfather, am I really wrong? I have always believed that phoenix tail feather, unicorn tail hair, and fire dragon hearts are the most stable and suitable materials for making wand cores, which is why I have abandoned the ancient tradition of custom wands in the family. Perhaps it is not the wand that chooses a wizard, but rather fate chose the wizard." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Start of Enrollment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Start of Enrollment. After returning from Diagon Alley, there is still 1 month left until the start of school. Xia Lin has long memorized a vast amount of knowledge about spells and potions. Now that he has a wand and crucible, he can start practicing casting spells and refining potions. What he needs is nothing more than to transform the knowledge in his mind into practical skills through repeated practice. Xia Lin practiced every kind of magic spell he knew every day, until each spell could be mastered to a level of proficiency as instructed by his arm and as he pleased. Mr. Ollivander is right. This wand does fit Sharon very well, and when held in hand, the magic on his body seems to blend seamlessly with the wand. No matter what magic is cast, it feels effortless and natural. It is worth mentioning that Schelling secretly discovered that this wand seemed to have an amplifying effect when casting black magic, and the power of the black magic he cast was often stronger than that of other spells. 2 weeks later, Sharon happily received the wizard robe sent from Mrs. Morkin. He looked it over several times and finally packed it into his luggage to be taken to Hogwarts. Time quickly arrived on September 1st. The Malfoy family arrived at King's Cross Station. Passing through Platform 9 and March 4th, Sharon suddenly saw a deep red steam locomotive parked by the platform, with a sign hanging on the train reading, "Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. The thick smoke from steam locomotives swirled above the noisy crowd, with cats of various colors passing through people's feet, and owls honking harshly. There are so many people here. Some are saying goodbye to their children, while others are exchanging holiday thoughts. Father and mother, just deliver it here. We will board the train ourselves, Xia Lin said. Naxisha's eyes were wet, and she hugged the 2 children and kissed their cheeks. All right, Lucius's face was also filled with reluctance, but he struggled to control his seemingly plain tone. Study magic hard, take good care of yourself, and remember to write more letters home. Draco, when you grow up, don't just play around all day. Learn more from your younger brother, okay? Draco said bitterly, oh. Xia Lin, keep an eye on your brother. If you have anything to do, go find Uncle Snape. He will take care of you too. Xia Lin responded with a, got it, and pulled Draco around to find the train door. After entering the reserved private room, the 2 brothers waved goodbye to their reluctant parents from the window, and Lucius then took Narcissa's hand and left. After watching his parents leave, Xia Lin looked at the interior decoration of this private room with great interest. Sharon and Draco shared a private room, which Lucius had arranged in advance with his connections from the Ministry of Magic's Traffic Control Department. It was located in the least bumpy part of the middle of the train and had shock absorbers on the seat cushions, making it the most comfortable private room on the entire train. In fact, Lucius's goal was not to let the 2 brothers encounter the dilemma of not being able to find the carriage, and as a result, he was forced to squeeze into the carriage with those unscrupulous Muggle seeds. I really don't understand, Draco began to complain just as he sat down. Why does Hogwarts want us to take this backward Muggle transportation? Can't they arrange a night horse carriage for every student? Xia Lin smiled and said, brother, the Thestral is not easy to tame. Those who can own the Thestral carriage are usually from our noble family. In the past, Hogwarts did not use trains to transport students. Oh, what method was used? Draco raised his eyebrows and asked. At that time, the Ministry of Magic arranged a large number of flyby networks connecting the Hogwarts stove, but had to give up because too many young wizards suffered from fly-by-network dizziness on the first day of school, Schelling said. Ha ha ha, Draco burst out laughing, sit on the flyer network. As for what? The two brothers have been using flyer networks since childhood, so they have developed resistance to the spinning process of flyer networks since childhood. As long as the teleportation is not too far away, the two of them will at most feel slightly uncomfortable and will not experience dizziness. Schelling took out today's Prophets Daily and was about to peruse it when Crabbe and Gore also ran in. Draco, Schelling, do you know? They excitedly said, Potter, Harry Potter, he's also on this car. He's been circulating all over the train. Humph, I knew about it a month ago. Draco felt the need to maintain his big brother's momentum. I met him in Diagon Alley a month ago. Since you said that, I'll take you to meet him. Let's go together, Sharon. Four children were walking in the hallway, with Crabbe and Gore standing behind like two bodyguards. Looking at Draco's haughty appearance next to him, Schelling felt as if Draco was taking his little brother to cause trouble. That's it, Gore said as he walked up to a compartment. Draco opened the door first. Harry Potter sat inside. Opposite him was a red-haired boy with freckles on his face, tall and thin, and a stain on his nose. Sherlin recognized it as Ron. Hey Harry, did you have a good summer vacation? Draco asked loudly, everyone in the car is saying you're sitting here. Well, it's okay, Harry stuttered as he had learned something from Hagrid and believed that the Malfoy family were all cunning villains, so it was better to have less contact. But Draco didn't notice Harry's abnormality at all and continued to say to himself, this is Crabbe, this is Gore, and they really want to know you. Finally, Draco noticed the red-haired boy next to him, raised his eyebrows, and said, I guess you must be a child from the Weasley family. My dad said your family has red hair, and there are so many children. Xia Lin coughed lightly, and Draco suddenly stopped talking. Xia Lin looked at Ron, whose face was flushed, and said, hello, I'm Xia Lin Malfoy. This is my brother Draco, and his words just now were not intentional. I apologize on his behalf. We are all pure-blood families, and I hope you don't take it too seriously. In the future, everyone may become classmates. Unfortunately, the bad impression has already been planted, and neither Harry nor Ron's face looks good at the moment. At this moment, a little girl also walked to the door of the compartment, followed by a round-faced little boy who appeared somewhat timid. Did anyone see a toad? Neville lost a toad. The little girl has thick brown long hair and a pair of big front teeth. She has a loud voice and her words sound somewhat arrogant. With such iconic hair and tone of voice, Schelling could naturally recognize Hermione Granger, one of the three main characters. Draco frowned when he saw Hermione. Judging from the girl's appearance and demeanor, he suspected that the girl in front of him was the mud seed he looked down upon the most. It was an insulting term in their pure-blood circle for those parents who were muggles or muggle wizards. But at this moment, he couldn't be certain, and he knew that his younger brother never liked him to say these mud seeds of bad things, so he finally suppressed his desire to speak and didn't say anything. Xia Lin looked at the round-faced boy's robe embroidered with the emblem of two male lions lying on the throne with their front paws, and calmly said, Twin Lion Thrones, are you from the Longbottom family in Kent? Before the boy could reply, Sharon thought to herself, I guess so. I guess you're Frank Longbottom's son. I've seen your grandmother, Mrs. Augusta Longbottom. She mentioned that she has a grandson living with her, so it must be you, right? The boy who kept his head down suddenly straightened up when he heard the names of his grandmother and father, and looked at the boy in front of him with a slightly proud expression on his face. It's me. You just call me Neville. Do you know my grandmother and my father? To reintroduce, I am Sharon from the Malfoy family, and this is my brother Draco. We have all heard of your parents, and they are both great Aurora, worthy of respect. Is that right? Neville's eyes lit up with a different light, and it was the first time he had heard a positive evaluation of him, even if it was just for his parents. Xia Lin continued, I haven't seen your toad, but I think I can help you find it. Hermione showed a curious expression and said, how do you plan to find it? Xia Lin showed a confident smile as he took out a circular gadget resembling a compass from his arms and whispered to it, where is Neville's toad? The compass experienced a noticeable vibration, and after a while, the needle pointed in one direction. Xia Lin looked at Hermione with a somewhat surprised look and explained with a smile, this is a lost needle. It can find items that were lost recently, but the lost time cannot exceed 5 hours. I know this thing, Hermione said quickly. I've seen it in the Encyclopedia of Practical Magic Items for Families, but this is the first time I've seen its physical form. Its principle is. Stop. Seeing Hermione about to engage in a continuous preaching mode, Sharon quickly interrupted her. Xia Lin first looked at Neville and said, following the guidance of the search needle, your toad should be in the south. You need to continue to look behind the train and see the clues revealed by the color changes on the pointer. I believe, Xia Lin calculated a few times in his heart, it should be a journey of 16 feet further down from here, so it's box 38. Can you go there and ask? Okay, thank you. I really appreciate you, said Neville sincerely. Prior to this, he had sought help from others, but every student in each carriage only coldly told him that the toad was not in the carriage. Hermione was the first person to volunteer to accompany him in finding the toad, while Schelling was the first to take the initiative to help him find it. You're welcome. I hope we can become friends in the future, Xia Lin said. Well, Neville seemed to have regained the courage he had lost after hearing his parents' names, then I'll go find my Raffles. I won't disturb you guys and continue chatting. See you at school. After Neville turned around and left, Hermione did not follow her, but instead looked at Schelling with scrutinizing eyes. Why didn't you just let me continue? Hermione was a bit unhappy. I was just about to say that the principle of the lost object needle is really amazing. It uses the principle of mutual repulsion of magical elements, which can sense the residual magic left by the owner on the lost object. Sharon stared at Hermione's face with gray pupils and remained silent. Hermione seemed to feel something, and suddenly blushed and fell silent. She stubbornly looked back at Xia Lin. Suddenly, she felt inexplicably that the young man's face was really beautiful, but his gaze was too pressing and aggressive. Her personality had always been strong, but at this moment, under the young man's gaze, she couldn't help feeling uneasy and couldn't continue to look at Xia Lin. She moved her gaze away. Xia Linwen said in a warm voice, you don't have to do this, really. What? Hermione was confused. How am I doing? From your attire and speech, it seems that neither of your parents are wizards, right? Sharon's gaze was bright and confident, but his tone was unquestionable. You were very uneasy when you first came into contact with the wizarding world, right? That's why you have to arm yourself with your knowledge, so that you won't appear ignorant or make a fool of yourself in front of your fellow wizarding classmates. Don't talk nonsense. Hermione stuttered and denied. Don't worry, I don't have any malice, Xia Lin smiled gently. I just want to tell you that your worries are unnecessary. Most students from wizarding families, like you, are not allowed to be exposed to magic before enrollment. I dare say that on this train, and among our classmates in the first grade, no one knows more than you. At least, not everyone can recognize this searching needle. You are excellent, show your confidence, you don't need to prove yourself like this, Xia Lin said humorously. Because, this will only cover up your strengths and make people feel that you are just talkative. You. Hermione widened her eyes. She didn't expect the young man in front of her to smile so beautifully but speak so harshly. I'm not teasing you anymore, Xia Lin said politely with a noble salute. So, this kind, lovely, intelligent, and knowledgeable lady, do I have the honor to know your name? The girl's face turned really red this time. Hermione Granger, just call me Hermione, the girl replied. A very nice and unique name that suits you very well. I will remember your name, Sharon said as he saw Draco, Harry, and Ron both unhappy. All right, my brother and I are going back to our carriage. Let's meet again at school. I hope we can become classmates in the college. Let's go, Draco. After speaking, he pulled Draco and his two attendants away. The active Draco didn't want to be lonely and ran to the carriages of Gore, Crabbe, and others to meet some other first-year freshmen. Xia Lin returned to the private room alone, took out a sandwich and newspaper, and leisurely started reading while eating. Suddenly, the private door was opened again, and two tall blonde girls walked in. The girl standing in front quickly scanned Xia Lin with a scrutinizing gaze before entering the carriage, and the one behind quickly followed suit. Xia Lin did not know them, but this was a private box pre-booked by the Malfoy family using their family power. Those who dared to open this door at will would not be ordinary people. Xia Lin looked up slightly and quickly glanced over the embroidered family badges on the two girls' robes, recognizing their origins. The girl who led the way into the carriage came from the Gringotts family, while the girl who followed later came from the Shafik family, both of whom were from the Holy 28 Pure-Blood family. In the original work, there is little attention paid to these two families. The most impressive member of the Gringotts family is Astoria Gringotts, the future wife of Draco. Most of the women in this family have a short lifespan due to being cursed by generations of blood. In the original work, Astoria passed away at the age of 37. The bloodline curse is a highly advanced and rare curse-type magic that can be used to plant a curse on a family's bloodline. All descendants of a family have a certain chance to activate the curse. There are various types of curses, some of which can reduce one's lifespan, some can cause extreme misfortune, and some can ultimately turn one into a beast. Unless the bloodline is severed or a counter-curse is found to break the curse will be passed down forever in future generations. Apart from the Gringotts family, the only known blood curse host in the wizarding world is the giant snake named Nagi that surrounds Voldemort after his return. The bloodline curse carried by Nagi is different from that of the Gringotts family. Although it will not die early due to the loss of lifespan, it will mutate irreversibly into a giant snake. Xia Lin searched through his memories and found that the Shafik family did not leave any records in the original work. However, he had already explored the rich collections of books of the Malfoy and Blake families, and his understanding of the wizarding world far exceeded that of previous readers of the original work. In the book Born Noble, a wizarding genealogy, it is mentioned that the Shafik family is a branch of the Black Witch Morpheus, a half-sister of King Arthur and a mortal enemy of Merlin. In history, the Shafik family once had a fierce figure known as the Black Queen. It is said that the villain, the Black Witch Maleficent, in Muggle's fairy tale, Sleeping Beauty, appeared in the family it was built based on the Black Witch of the Shafik family. Xia Lin took the initiative to speak. "Two beautiful ladies, I'm Xia Lin Malfoy. Nice to meet you. Is there anything I can do for you?" The girl who was leading the way into the carriage replied confidently, "Hello, Mr. Malfoy, I'm Daphne Greengrass, and this is my friend Meredith Shafik. We just met in another private room with your brother, but... As she spoke, her face turned red and she didn't know how to continue. Compared to Daphne's friendly attitude, Meredith appeared a bit aloof. She disdainfully snorted and said in a slightly sarcastic tone, "Your brother seems to have similar interests with that of Pansy Parkinson." Xia Lin can now confirm that the two of them must have just parted ways with their brother's friends and decided to change carriages. Little did they know that they had just switched to their own place. Just now, upon hearing Meredith's tone, she seemed to have almost uttered the insulting word, bitch. No wonder, Sherry was well aware of Pansy's character, her sharp words, and her self-centeredness. Her words were sure to offend many people. Xia Lin gave a friendly smile and said, "I guess my immature brother must have offended the two ladies by accident. I apologize on his behalf here. Please accept these two small gifts generously, as a gesture of apology." After finishing speaking, Schelling took out his wand and lightly tapped the cup on the table. The cup split into two and turned into a golden fragrant flower and a purple organza. This fragrant flower, paired with Miss Daphne's name, is exactly the beautiful and delicate flower. This organza is for the beautiful and noble Miss Meredith, perfectly showcasing your gorgeous and elegant temperament. Although Xia Lin's affectation was inevitably suspected of pleasing the beautiful woman, his exquisite transformation technique truly shook the two women. In the following journey, the two women's eyes towards him also began to change, and their words became lively. The three of them talked about their family background and their longing for Hogwarts. The two women also enthusiastically sought advice from Schelling on various issues related to magic, only to realize that Schelling had considerable expertise in spells, transformations, and potions, and there was also a hint of admiration and awe in the eyes that looked at him. It was already evening when the train reached its destination. The platform where the freshmen got off was small and black, which was quite strange. The cold wind blew through the robes one by one, making a whooshing sound. The school did not make the new students wait too long. A lamp swayed silently above the students, followed by a rough and wild voice shouting, "Freshmen! Freshmen, come over here!" Hagrid, who was almost 3 times the height of a new student, was holding a magic lamp in his right hand with a big beard and a smile on his face. "Come on, come with me. Are there any new freshmen? Be careful of your feet. All right, new freshmen, come with me." The freshmen followed Hagrid along a rugged mountain road, and suddenly came a sigh of admiration ahead. At the end of the path, a black lake suddenly unfolded, shimmering with light. On the high slope across the lake stands a towering castle, shrouded in an unfathomable darkness. The spires of the castle stand tall, and windows twinkle under the starry sky. Small boats were docked on the shore of the lake, swaying gently with the ripples. Hagrid shouted at the top of his throat, "Get on board. Each boat can't exceed 4 people." A dozen or so small boats rowed across the calm lake and headed towards the opposite side. Everyone remained silent, gazing at the huge castle towering into the clouds. Upon reaching the castle gate, Professor McGonagall led the freshmen into the auditorium, followed by the branch ceremony. As expected, Sharon, who was pure blood, ambitious, and full of planning, was assigned to Slytherin by the Sorting Hat. After dinner, the students returned to the rest rooms of different colleges under the guidance of the prefect. Slytherin's lounge is located in the dungeon of the castle, and the vast lounge is filled with green lights. The walls and ceiling are made of black Gothic marble, and from the window, you can see the bottom of Black Lake. Occasionally, the water monster Grindello and the giant squid swim by. Unlike other colleges, the noble little snakes have their own rooms and bathrooms, without the need to live with any roommates, and have more private space. Xia Lin is very pleased about this. It is really a suitable college for him. He has many plans in Hogwarts, and the less people know, the better. Xia Lin chose a secluded and quiet room, locked the door, and snapped his fingers. With a tap, a dirty domestic elf appeared in the room, and it was Dobby. Home elves and wizards practice a completely different magical system, allowing them to freely manifest themselves within the Hogwarts realm. As one of Dobby's masters, Schelling's sole contract gives him the ability to summon Dobby with his mind at any time. What a great ability, Xia Lin couldn't help but sigh. Dobby will become an indispensable part of himself this year. Running errands. Many readers find Xia Lin's dialogue when sending flowers to 2 women very strange. Here is a unified explanation. Ruexiang flower is English for Daphne, which means Daphne, so it is just right to be used to make people happy. Jiaoqin Kill represents nobility and sincerity, and is the first choice to apologize to unfamiliar girls. Roses and lilies/daffodils are more suitable for lovers or loved ones. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Transformation Course. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Transformation Course. The next day before dawn, Xia Lin woke up. He washed himself up and took a glance at Draco's room, who showed no signs of waking up. He was ready to call him again after finishing his meal. Fortunately, there was no class today, and Sharon planned to explore the castle and familiarize himself with the environment. Walking to the lounge, Sharon saw Daphne, who had also just come out of the dormitory. The two of them made an appointment to go to the auditorium for breakfast together, only to find that there was no one left. It turned out that they woke up too early today, and it was not breakfast time yet. The two of them didn't take it seriously and continued to explore this legendary castle. There are a total of 142 stairs in Hogwarts. Some of them are wide and large, some are narrow, small, and wobbly, some go to different places every Friday, some steps may suddenly disappear halfway up, so you need to remember where to jump over. In addition, there are many doors here, and if you politely ask them to open or poke the right place, they will not open them for you. Some doors are not real doors at all, just sturdy walls that seem to be doors. Xiaolin and Daphne took a stroll through the 9 floors, including the dungeon, and found all the necessary classroom locations for class. They also found 3 secret passages, which are usually hidden behind tapestries, stone carvings, stone walls, and even behind portraits. Some secret passages require specific commands or touch certain special positions to open. When the two returned to the auditorium, there were already 3 or 2 students sitting at Slytherin's long table eating breakfast. Xiaolin saw Draco, who was still drowsy, sitting with Gore and Crabbe at the moment. He walked over to greet them and introduced Daphne to them, and they sat together to enjoy breakfast. Xiaolin casually ate a bowl of milk oatmeal congee, took out a piece of parchment from his pocket, and wrote and drew on it with a pen. "What are you drawing?" Draco couldn't help but ask. "I'm going to draw a map of Hogwarts, recording the location of each classroom and every secret passage I've found." Sharon didn't lift his head and focused on doodling on the paper. Xiaolin had just finished drawing and flipped the parchment gently. "Ha! Is this a map of the castle? Can you lend me a look?" A girl's voice sounded beside her. Xiaolin turned her head to look over, and it was Pansy, a new student from the same college. Upon seeing Pansy arrive, Daphne's eyes flashed with an imperceptible disgust, but the observant Sharon immediately noticed. Xiaolin took out his wand and lightly copied a map using the copy curse. He handed it to Pansy casually. "I still think I should wander around the castle by myself. This is one of the new pleasures." The young wizards present were all of pure or mixed race descent, and their understanding of magic was not as shallow as that of Harry's trio, so they immediately recognized the magic that Schelling had cast. Pansy stared at Schelling's wand and exclaimed in surprise, "Have you learned the copy spell?" Xiaolin couldn't deny it and said, "This curse is not difficult." Pansy's gaze at Xiaolin suddenly became very strange. Xiaolin could confirm that he saw Pansy giving Draco an imperceptible quick glance, and in that moment, a mixed look of regret and hesitation flashed in his eyes. She looked at the map drawn by Xiaolin and frowned. The map was very detailed, and the lines and markings were also very clear. The markings of the secret passage and classroom were clearly visible, and there was even no omission of which stairs needed to be crossed. This map is not something that a child can easily doodle on. It contains valuable skills such as spatial science, surveying, architectural drawing techniques, and more. As a great adventurer in his past life, Xiaolin had a lot of exposure to mazes, castles, and dark forests. He was adept at drawing maps and routes by hand. Although he had been reborn for 11 years, he had already given birth to many, but the level of his artwork was still enough to leave these little brats behind. Not long after, several of Pansy's close friends also came to the auditorium one by one. Sherry knew that Daphne didn't like these girls very much, so she stood up and bid farewell to them together with Daphne. Before leaving, Xiaolin copied a few more maps and distributed them to Draco and the classmates present one by one, saving them the risk of new students getting lost. Xiaolin and Daphne had no intention of returning to the dormitory. They went to the library together to explore Hogwarts' collection of books. Hogwarts has a collection of 100,000 books, which is more than the combined collections of the Malfoy, Black, and grandmother families. Of course, quantity does not represent quality. Items that can be easily purchased in bookstores are not qualified to be placed in family libraries. Daphne found a book about spells and sat down quietly to read. Xia Lin spent a lot of time browsing through each bookshelf and figuring out the corresponding shelf positions for books in different fields. Schelling's primary goal is to learn the art of brain blockade, and he is proficient in magic such as telepathy within this castle. At least Dumbledore and Snape are known to exist, and Schelling has too many plans in his mind that cannot be easily revealed. Xia Lin borrowed several books about brain block surgery from the library and planned to slowly ponder them after returning to his dormitory room. Brain sealing is a very special type of magic that does not require spells or wands to be used. It only requires practitioners to have a firm inner self and strong suppression of emotions. That's also why, before enrolling in school, Schelling never had the idea of practicing brain block surgery. He still remembers asking Lucius about this issue, and Lucius dismissed him because he was too young. Later, through his several studies, he discovered the true reason why children cannot learn brain block surgery. In children's brains, the mechanism of emotional suppression is not yet fully developed. Compared to adults who use the responsible frontal lobe of the brain to make decisions, children tend to use the amygdala, which is responsible for emotions and intuition, to make decisions. This physiological condition directly limits the possibility of children learning brain block surgery. Harry, who had a reckless personality in the original work, was unable to master this magic by 5th grade, which is why. Even though Schelling's mind is far more mature than Harry's, he doesn't feel like he can fully master this skill by the age of 11. At most, he just needs to master some superficial skills, which is better than nothing. But this is already enough. After all, these two mindfulness masters, one is friendly with their own father, and the other is busy with his Harry Potter development plan every day. It is unlikely that they will send themselves mindfulness without reason, even if their father was a real Death Eater. As long as one can quickly detect someone invading their thoughts, it is a victory. A professor or a principal cannot, disregarding their identity, forcefully invade the thoughts of a child when their small actions have already been noticed, right? And, Sharon is not an ordinary little wizard who is easily bullied. Behind him is the powerful Malfoy family in politics, business, and education. To offend the Malfoy family, especially in the unreasonable situation of bullying the small, Schirling believed that even Dumbledore should weigh the consequences. Hogwarts freshmen have a total of 8 courses, including defense against dark arts, metamorphosis, potions, herbs, history of magic, astronomy, charm, and the most anticipated flying course. The next day, Slytherin welcomed his first class. Deformation class. The deformation class is taught together with the students of Hufflepuff. The professor in charge of the deformation class is Professor McGonagall, who is strict and meticulous. Therefore, she treats students from all 4 colleges equally, without favoritism or targeting. The freshmen soon felt Professor McGonagall's strictness. The deformation class is the most dangerous course in your 1st grade, so I don't want anyone to cause trouble in class. If there is, I will invite him out. I have told every new student this, and I hope you can remember it. At the moment the class bell rang, she stood in front of the stage and said seriously. After Professor McGonagall finished his opening statement, he took out his wand. She pointed her cane at an empty desk and quickly recited a spell. Under the surprised gaze of the freshmen, the desk gradually wriggled and naturally transformed into a pig, emitting a loud pig's cry. Wow! Most of the freshmen were attracted by this magical spell and exclaimed in surprise. Even a pure-blooded Slytherin wizard is the same. After all, shape-shifting is a difficult subject, and it becomes increasingly complex and difficult to learn as one progresses. Most adult wizards tend to lean their skills towards more convenient, simple, and understandable spell learning. I believe many people have already previewed the textbook and have a preliminary understanding of this course, Professor McGonagall said slowly, waving his hand and turning the desk back. As you can see, this course is incredibly profound and magical, and risks come with it. It's best not to try it alone without absolute certainty. Most little wizards are a bit skeptical, but Schelling dare not take this course lightly. He roughly flipped through all the textbooks of the first grade, and the most difficult one to understand was the Beginner's Metamorphosis Guide. This course requires not only correct spells, but also a thorough understanding of the essence of deformed objects. Wizards who learn transformation techniques not only need to have a deep understanding of the material laws of things, but also have a precise understanding of the magic laws that may exist on them, in order to avoid the dangers brought about by transformation. This can be said to be quite difficult. The effects and abilities of the transformation technique are closely related to the level of the wizard, and the difficulty increases proportionally with the complexity of the transformation. For example, a wizard who is new to shape-shifting can easily turn a match into a needle, but it is extremely difficult to turn a match into a stick, and even the shape of the needle is difficult to maintain for a long time. And wizards with high magic power can not only transform as they please, but can even apply spells on deformed objects to achieve eternal effects. However, shape-shifting is not too difficult for Schelling, who has learned mathematical and physical formulas in his previous life. Schelling's understanding of the laws of matter far exceeds that of many young wizards. What is a needle? Needles are metal, slender, sturdy, and sharp. All he needs to do is rely on his imagination to envision the image of a needle in divine consciousness, the clearer and more detailed the better, and then use his concentration to inject magic into the object and change its external form through spells. And then this is not over yet, he still needs to continue to concentrate and outline the characteristics of the needle, which must be thin and sharp enough to increase his piercing ability, it must be straight and hard enough to not be easily bent by resistance. This process requires absolute focus, confidence, and unwavering determination, which is why it is difficult for wavering little wizards like Neville and Ron to master metamorphosis. While the students around were still tinkering with the principles, Schelling turned the match into a silver needle with a lifelike snake head at the needle's eye, which made Professor McGonagall very happy and added a lot to Slytherin. By the end of class, only the matches of the Malfoy brothers had completed the task. Although Draco was playful, during the days after receiving his wand, he was also influenced by Schelling and spent a lot of time practicing his concentration. Therefore, his performance was also good, at least his needle was enough to pierce a thin piece of paper. Professor McGonagall showed the whole class how matches turn into needles and gave them a rare smile. Note: Slytherin's first grade curriculum. Set by the author, Metamorphosis class plus Hufflepuff potion class plus Gryffindor, official, Curse class plus Ravenclaw herbal medicine class plus Ravenclaw, official, Black magic class plus Hitchpatch astronomy class plus Ravenclaw magic history course plus Ravenclaw flight class plus Gryffindor, official. The intersection of Slytherin and Ravenclaw is at its most traceable. In the original work, Harry was not familiar with Ravenclaw's classmates at all, and only met a few of them when the Dumbledore army was established in 5th grade. It can be seen that the main intersection of Gryffindor's colleges was Heckpage. In addition, the original work also mentioned that the first grade courses Slytherin and Gryffindor only have 2 courses, potions and flying, taught together. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Magic Medicine Course. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Magic Medicine Course. On Friday, Slytherin is going to attend Professor Snape's potion class with Gryffindor. Sharon and Draco arrived early at the potion classroom located in the dungeon, which was eerie and cold. Glass jars were placed along the walls, soaking many creepy animal specimens inside. The potion class requires a group of 2 students, the students of Slytherin and Gryffindor, each paired up within their respective colleges, sitting on either side of the classroom with distinct distinctions. Sherry and Draco, Gore and Crabbe, Harry and Ron, Daphne and Pansy under Sherry's influence. Sharon suddenly noticed Meredith sitting alone in the last row of Slytherin, feeling a bit embarrassed because no one wanted to be in her group. At this moment, Xiaolin also remembered that she had not seen much of Meredith except for class. She seemed to have been alone all along, as if she had not made a friend yet. Meredith is too cold and proud, always with a cold face, as if the whole world has offended her, so now everyone doesn't like her, Daphne whispered. Xiaolin couldn't help but ask Daphne at the next table, aren't you and her friends? We did play together when we were children, Daphne said with a look of memories on her face. But as she grew up a bit, her personality seemed to change, and now she has developed such a bad temper. Finally, under Snape's forced allocation, Pansy was ordered to team up with Meredith, while Schelling filled Pansy's vacancy and teamed up with Daphne. Most unexpectedly, Draco was ordered to team up with Hermione. Daphne is the happiest person in this allocation. After all, the entire Slytherin knows Sharon's strength, almost universally recognized as the strongest in first grade. Pansy's face was full of unwillingness, her eyes fiercely staring at Meredith, and Meredith lifted her face to the sky without even looking at Pansy. Draco felt uneasy when he thought of teaming up with a Muggle wizard, but Sharon tricked him into believing it was a great opportunity to prove the strength of a pure-blooded heir to others. That's why he fooled Draco into being complacent and obediently teamed up with Hermione. After naming, Snape began teaching. You are here to learn the precise science and strict craftsmanship of preparing this magic potion, he said, speaking in a voice almost slightly higher than a whisper, but everyone could hear every word he said. Like Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape also has a deterrent power that effortlessly keeps the classroom in order. Due to the rarity of foolishly waving a wand here, many of you wouldn't believe it was magic. I don't expect you to truly understand the beauty of the slow simmering crucible emitting white smoke and fragrant wafts. You won't truly understand the magical power of the liquid flowing into people's blood vessels, which can make their hearts flutter and their wills wander. I can teach you how to raise your reputation, brew glory, and even prevent death. But there must be one thing, and that is, you are not the kind of stupid fools I often encounter. Note: to make potions, it is necessary to wave a wand. In the Book of Potions, each potion is even accompanied by a specific movement of the wand. In English, the original text of Lissop said that it is rarely necessary to wave a wand, and the so-called "not foolishly wave a wand" is actually a mistranslation by the People's Society. Potter. Snape suddenly said, what would I get if I add narcissus root powder to wormwood extract? What grassroots powder is placed in what solution? Harry glanced at Ron, who, like him, was also stunned. Hermione raised her arms high in the air. I don't know, sir, Harry said. Snape sneered and said, TSK, it seems that fame doesn't represent everything. Snape deliberately ignored Hermione's raised arm and continued, let's try again. Potter, if I asked you to find me a fecal stone, where would you go? Hermione tried to hold her hand high without leaving her seat, but Harry had no idea what fecal stones were. He tried his best not to see Malfoy, Crabbe, and Gore, and the three of them laughed trembling all over. I don't know, sir. I don't think you read a single book before the start of school, did you, Potter? Snape continued, ignoring Hermione's trembling arm. Okay, Potter, then what's the difference between the boat-shaped aconite and the wolf-venom aconite? I don't know, Harry whispered, but I think Hermione knows the answer. Why don't you ask her? A few students laughed out loud. Sit down, he shouted angrily at Hermione. Sharon, you come and say the answer. Sheldon felt a bit helpless. Is this forcing him to have trouble with Harry? But under Snape's murderous gaze, Schelling could only stand up and say, narcissus root powder and mugwort can be combined to make a very potent sleeping pill, which is the soup of living hell. Fecal stone is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat and has a strong detoxifying effect. As for the boat-shaped aconite and wolf-venom aconite, they are the same plant, also collectively known as aconite. Slytherin is very angry, Snape said loudly, "Why don't you take note of all of this?" Suddenly, there was a rustling sound of feeling for feather pens and parchment. In the midst of the noise, Snape said, "Potter, Gryffindor will lose 1 point because you contradict the teacher." Then Snape spent half a class guiding the students of 2 classes, working in pairs to learn how to prepare the simplest magic potion for treating boils. It is said to be the simplest magic potion, but both the materials and steps seem quite cumbersome. Following Snape's orders, Sharon took out various materials from the potion class cabinet, including dried nettles, venomous fangs of pit vipers, and porcupine thorns. Daphne lit up the fire and placed her crucible on it. During their configuration process, Snape dragged a long black cloak around the classroom, like a big bat, observing their configuration steps everywhere. During this period, most Gryffindor students were harshly criticized by him. Even many Slytherin students cannot avoid it. After returning to his seat, Sharon's movements were very agile. In fact, simple movements such as grinding, dissolving, and boiling had already been practiced at home before the start of school. "Why do you want to grind porcupine thorns?" Daphne asked inexplicably. "The book says you need to chop the porcupine thorns into small pieces, and in the final stage, remove the crucible from the fire and add it. The solubility of porcupine thorns is extremely low, and after being removed from the fire, it is not easy to dissolve. Just looking at it as the last raw material added, it can be inferred that it is most likely the most unstable among all raw materials. Grinding it into powder can make it dissolve faster, reducing the probability of accidents." Because the partner is a delicate beauty, Xia Lin patiently explained, but he did not stop grinding the porcupine thorns and continued to grind them. Daphne frowned and looked at Sharon's confident expression. She decided not to say anything and continued to smash the small snake fangs with a hammer. "Help me put the nettle in the pot and bake it for a while, so I can dry the water. Be careful not to get hurt by the thorns on the nettle." "Thank you." Xia Lin added the crushed snake venom teeth to the crucible, slowly stirring clockwise as he instructed. Daphne opened her mouth, but remained silent. Instead, she followed Schelling's instructions. During this period, Snape passed by their location several times, stopped and observed their movements for several minutes, and even saw the small plate of porcupine thorns that had been crushed into powder. However, he did not interfere at all, just glanced at Sharon sideways. After adding the nettle and snake venom to the pot, it needs to be boiled continuously for 5 minutes. Daphne glanced at the magic potion in her hand, reminding her that Sharon nodded and looked at the alchemy watch brought from home, while pulling out her wand and reciting words into the crucible. The watch looked strange, with 12 hands but no numbers, and various celestial bodies rotating along the edge of the dial. "What are you doing?" Daphne's initial unease and doubt have now turned into curiosity. "Oh, I'm using magic to control the flame and keep the temperature of the crucible stable. You know, porcupine thorns can easily explode when exposed to heat, so I need to make sure that the liquid inside the crucible can quickly cool down after it leaves the flame." Schelling whispered as he stared at his watch, "My watch can not only see time, but also stars and moon phases. Mars is low today, so accidents related to fire are likely to occur, and I must be particularly careful." Note: the influence of celestial phenomena on magical effects and the process of making potions is not a fabrication by the author. The famous research of chocolate frog artist Hesper Starkey is the influence of lunar phases on the production of potions. After the mixed liquid began to turn yellow, he quickly reduced the flame and prevented the liquid from boiling excessively. Daphne's expression was a bit uneasy, but Sharon didn't have much to worry about. Hogwarts's potion textbooks actually lack authority and accuracy, and even simple things like squeezing or cutting beans can easily produce juice. Xia Lin suddenly smelled an unusual odor and turned his head to see a thick, acidic green smoke rising from the underground classroom, accompanied by a loud hissing sound. Neville somehow burned Simo's crucible into a twisted piece, and the potion in the pot spilled onto the slate. However, Sharon acted promptly, and the potion on the ground disappeared. Slytherin adds 5 points. Snape glanced at Schelling and then turned to growl at Neville, "Are you an idiot? I think you probably didn't take the pot out of the fire before putting the porcupine thorn in, did you?" Neville burst into tears, even with many boils on his nose. After Snape scolded him, he asked Seymour Finnegan to take him to the school hospital. Half an hour later, Snape slowly walked between the tables, taking turns checking each crucible and their results. When he saw the ugly blue mixture that Harry and Ron had prepared, a sarcastic smile appeared on his face. "Do you think you can drink this potion, Potter and Wesley? I dare say, drinking your potion will poison yourself before curing the boil." Snape waved his wand and swept the potion from the crucible. Almost every student's achievement was criticized by Snape, and then mocked and mocked. Gryffindor's students were scolded the most harshly, but some of Slytherin's students were also unlucky, especially the group of Pansy and Meredith, who became Slytherin's laughing-stock. The combination of Draco and Hermione did a good job. With Hermione's careful configuration and Draco's careful cooperation, the work produced was average. However, the biased Snape only gave Slytherin a 5-point bonus, completely ignoring Hermione's credit. This made many Gryffindor dare not speak up and transfer their full anger to Draco. The works configured by Schelling and Daphne were praised by Snape as perfect and gave Slytherin an additional 10 points. Xia Lin didn't feel anything, but Daphne beside her watched as Xia Lin's gaze became even hotter. The other students may not know, but Daphne knew exactly what Xia Lin had done. He had improved many steps to prepare the magic potion on his own, and in the end, he made a perfect finished product. She is well aware that this is a rare talent for magic potions, and it is not an exaggeration to say that there is none among them. The entire European wizarding community has at least a population of over 100,000, but less than 20 people have become masters of magic potions and have been invited to become members of the Extraordinary Pharmacists Association. Even with the background of the Greengrass family, she couldn't afford to hire a potion master to serve the family. Hermione, on the other hand, looked at Schelling with a face full of defiance. Although she had already followed the steps in the book to refine the magic potion, why could Schelling do better than herself? At this moment, the flame of victory in her heart, which she refused to give up, was raging. She decided to spend more time honing her magic potion level, and she must become the top student in all subjects. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Flight Course. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Flight Course. After class, Xia Lin and Daphne were chatting and laughing all the way to the auditorium to prepare for lunch. However, they caught a glimpse of several people on the other side of the hallway, who seemed to be surrounded in groups of 3 or 2. Through the cracks in the crowd, he happened to see that the person surrounding the wall was Meredith. She was currently surrounded by Pansy and several other girls from Slytherin. Daphne also saw Meredith being surrounded, and she seemed a bit worried. She murmured softly, "Oh my. She will definitely be dealt with very badly by Parkinson's group. Meredith belongs to the Shafik family, isn't that one of the Holy 28 pure-blood families?" Xia Lin was a bit puzzled. "I say Sharon, you are very talented in magic, but you are not very familiar with the current situation of the wizarding family, are you? The Holy 28 pure-blood family was written by Cantankerous Knot in the 1930s. In the following 60 years, it went through the Second Wizarding War and many wizarding families' conflicts, and many pure-blood families were gradually declining. The Shafik family was one of them. The once huge and diverse Shafik family is now only one of them." Daphne's tone was also a bit low. "As far as I know, the Crouch family is also similar. Since Barty Crouch Jr. was sentenced to prison, Barty's wife has also been heartbroken and passed away due to serious illness. After Barty also passed away, it is estimated that the days of the Crouch family's disappearance will not be far away. The Gore family and the Clabb family have also greatly declined in power, so they have now become vassal families of your Malfoy family, trying to seek refuge under the wings of the Malfoy family and continue the family's bloodline in glory. Xia Lin replied, "It turns out that's the case. As far as I know, Hannah Ebo of Heckpage is a mixed-race wizard. Perhaps her Ebo family, as you said, was forced by reality to withdraw from the pure-blood family, but it's not as bad as Meredith's." Knowing about Meredith's predicament, Xia Lin sighed and walked up. Although he didn't want any publicity, Xia Lin couldn't bear to see so many people bullying him. Daphne also closely followed behind Schelling, walking towards the group of people in Pansy. She only heard Pansy's voice coming, "Miss Shafiq. Oh my God. I can't see it." She pointed her throat and blocked Meredith against the damp stone wall, exaggerating and shouting, "But look at the potion you've made. You're completely talented. You're causing me to be scolded by Professor Snape." By the time Shireen and Daphne approached, Pansy had almost pressed her face against Meredith's face. She sneered and mocked, "Wow, look at your arrogant appearance, Miss Shafiq. Huh, now you're the only Shafiq." Xia Lin could see Meredith blushing in the crowd, unsure if it was due to anger or humiliation. It was evident that she was exerting all her strength to control her emotions, her fists clenched tightly, and her fingertips were swollen from congestion. But she still looked up, maintaining her unique and strange arrogance. Xia Lin's voice was not loud, but it was clear to everyone's ears. "Hey, Pansy, everyone is Slytherin. Is it interesting for so many people to bully a little girl? Instead of blaming others here, it's better to spend time learning magic potions, fighting for scores and glory for our college, and letting people from other colleges know our strength. Are you right about what I said?" Pansy saw that it was Xia Lin who saved the scene. She didn't want to have any conflict with Xia Lin, who was equally prestigious and had amazing magical talents. She could only snort coldly and turn around with a few women to leave. When Pansy and his group left, the entire corridor was left with only the three of them, and the atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Meredith is ready to endure the humiliation of Pansy and others because she doesn't have any friends in the college and knows no one will help her. When Shafiq was the only child left, she still remembered the expectations her parents had for her before her death. The honor of the entire family seemed to be weighing on her alone. After that, although she had also wanted to cause trouble and play with her peers, the heavy responsibility of maintaining family honor was like a shackle that bound her. Over time, she became a solitary person and gradually lost the ability to communicate with others. When Sharon and Daphne stood in front of her, tears welled up. Even when she received the news of her mother's death, she didn't feel like crying so much. But she gritted her teeth, fought hard not to let tears flow, still holding her head high and maintaining her proud demeanor. For some reason, she just didn't want these two people to see her crying. Do you want to have dinner together?" Sharon scratched her head and whispered to Meredith, not knowing what was going on. She looked at an 11-year-old girl with an almost crying expression, which made Sharon a bit embarrassed and unsure of what to say. Daphne looked at her former childhood playmate with some anticipation, revealing a rare and sincere smile. Meredith's face turned even redder than before. She tilted her head back and didn't even look at Sharon and Daphne. Her hands were still tightly clenched, as if there was something precious that needed to be held tightly. Her body trembled a bit, trembling, but clearly trying to restrain herself. She opened her mouth and spoke in a strange tone, as if trying to cover her crying voice. You. Really. Mind your own business." After pausing for half a day, she suddenly couldn't help but burst into tears with the last word. After speaking, she hugged her textbook and forcefully pushed Sherry and Daphne away, rushing up the stairs. The following life will return to the dull and repetitive days of classes. For the various courses established by the school, since Xia Lin has already established his future direction, he has decided to focus on targeted subjects, practical magic potions, spells, and transformation courses, and he has decided to double his efforts in learning. As for the astronomy class, Professor Quirrell's defense against black magic class, herbal medicine class, and flight class, he was just perfunctory. The only exception is the history of magic course. Purely out of personal interest, Sharon decided to study this subject with dedication. As for the OWL and NEWT exams and future employment prospects, I am the one who wants to defeat the Black Demon King. Let the exam go to hell. The advantage of becoming a top student is that teachers will open up some privileges, such as not having to do homework, which makes Draco envious. Another thing is the admiration of classmates. It is important to have a good relationship with a top student. When doing homework, one often sees people asking Xia Lin for various questions. Xia Lin is willing to give some guidance if he has time, but his homework is only lent to Daphne, which makes Daphne proud, but makes Draco a bit unhappy. But Xia Lin only coaxed his brother a few words, telling him that this was to maintain the honor of the Malfoy family, and also to give his brother more training so that he could become stronger quickly, and then deceive Draco into ecstasy. At the same time, Sharon will also be challenged by some people, such as a little lion with fluffy hair. Hermione seems to have realized that Sharon is the biggest obstacle to becoming the top student in her grade, so she is determined to surpass him, not only by answering questions more actively in class, but also by observing how he learns so well outside of class. So whenever Xia Lin sat in the library reading, she would secretly observe how he learned. However, this was not of much use. Schelling's theoretical knowledge was already very complete, and what he lacked was only practical experience and the magic to unleash even stronger spells. And these two can only be accumulated slowly over time, even in a hurry. As for Meredith, since the last incident, Sherry has invited her to dinner and do homework from time to time. Meredith seems very surprised by this. She thought that after the last rejection, Sherry and Daphne would no longer talk to her. In the end, after Meredith's answer, "If you want to eat, hurry up," Sharon and Daphne's small circle joined a group of 3, with Meredith holding her neck high and her face cold every day. Although Meredith's face was cold every day, the corners of her mouth would unconsciously curl up, and when she discovered it herself, she forcefully pursed it flat, making Daphne laugh at her more than once. The flight class will start on Thursday. This class is with Gryffindor. The professor of the flight class is Ms. Huichi. She has short gray hair and 2 yellow eyes, like the eyes of an eagle. After everyone picked up the broom, she shouted sternly, "All right, when I whistle, you'll kick your legs and leave the ground with force. Hold the broom steady, rise a few feet, then lean forward slightly and fall vertically back to the ground. Listen to my whistle, 3, 2. However, Neville was too nervous, afraid of being left on the ground, or perhaps eager to prove himself. So he didn't wait for the whistle to touch Miss Hodge's lips before kicking it hard and flying up. "Come back, child," Miss Hodge shouted, but Neville rose straight up, like a cork spraying out of a bottle. 12 feet to 20 feet. Neville's frightened face looked down at the rapidly disappearing ground below. He gasped for breath with his mouth wide open, feeling his strength disappear and sliding down from the broom. Sharon used the floating spell in time, and Neville stopped just as he was about to land, then burst into tears. His flying broom continued to rise higher and higher, and then began to slowly drift towards the direction of the Forbidden Forest. Miss Huichi bent down and looked down at Neville, her face as pale as Neville's. She turned to the other classmates and said, "I'll take this child to the hospital for a check-up. No one of you is allowed to move. Put the flying broom back in place, otherwise you won't be able to say Quidditch before you're kicked out of Hogwarts. Also, Slytherin deserves 20 points. Thank you for Mr. Malfoy's curse. Let's go, dear." After Miss Hodge and Neville left, Draco picked up Neville's memory ball on the grass and raised it, which shone brightly in the sunlight. "Bring it over, Malfoy," Harry whispered. Everyone stopped talking and stared. Draco grinned grimly. "I want to put it somewhere for Longbottom to pick it up. On a tree. How about that?" Bring it over. Harry shouted, but Draco had already jumped onto the broomstick and taken off. Draco did fly well. He hovered at a height parallel to the top of an oak tree and shouted loudly, "Come and get it, Potter." Harry grabbed his broom. "No way." Hermione Granger shouted, "Miss Hodge told us not to move. You'll cause trouble for all of us." Harry ignored her and the blood hit his eardrums with a loud bang. He rode on a flying broomstick and kicked the ground hard, so he rose up. The air whizzed through his hair, and his robe fluttered behind him. He suddenly felt a burst of ecstasy, realizing that he had discovered a skill he could teach himself. So easy, so wonderful. Just as Harry was about to charge towards Draco, a sound of Neville's memory ball flying rang out, and Draco's memory ball somehow reached Schelling's hand. Schelling said calmly, "Who is Neville's roommate? Can you help me return this memory ball to him?" Ron stood up with a face full of anger and said, "I am, Harry and I are both." Xia Lin gently threw the memory ball, and Ron didn't expect Xia Lin to return it so easily. He couldn't react for a moment and hurriedly caught the memory ball. A burst of mocking laughter echoed from the sidelines, and Ron's entire face turned red. Xia Lin ignored Ron's embarrassment and looked at the two people still flying in mid-air. He said calmly, "You two haven't come down yet. I saw Professor McGonagall walking towards here." After Professor McGonagall arrived, he saw Draco and Harry flying without permission and deducted 10 points from the academy for each of them. However, after hearing about Sharon's handling of the matter, he fairly added 10 points to Slytherin. This made a group of Gryffindor wizards, especially the well-behaved Hermione, show an unhappy expression towards Harry's behavior. Unlike in the original work, no one knew that Harry lost the opportunity to become the youngest Seeker in Hogwarts history. End of this chapter.